All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome in. Guess who's back? Back again. Will is back. Tell a friend. Oh, Kitty. Got a drink. Cheers. Cheers, cheers, friends.
Yes. Good evening, Muffy and Tiger. Welcome to tonight's stream.
We have a good one for you. The one that's been a talker for quite a while. But you know what? Will was gone. So we've got to talk about it. And one of the reasons why is we've been following this for for 2 years now. Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Here we go. It is the one and the only Lizzie Henderson, now known as Mr. Mrs. Watts. Well, let's talk about the legality of that will. What I've learned is the warden actually has to approve that marriage, correct?
Yes, he does, in fact, have to, if they want to get married on the prison grounds, he does have to approve it for security reasons, and he has to make sure that the inmate, in this case, Christopher Watts, is not using this individual from the outside for financial reasons. Yeah, he has to basically show their communications, the visitations, and that they have built a committed relationship, and then he will approve it once he gets all of that. It's just a formality at this point, basically. He can say yes, no, well, not right now, but in a month from now, but so it's almost never turned down unless something comes up, I should say, in that way.
I was thinking the same thing here. While you were gone, I did have a stream with my other attorney friend, and he was looking up for us the laws in Wisconsin. And you have to have a relationship established longer than 9 months. I'm assuming that's because if you're about to get paroled, they don't want you paroling out to a girlfriend's house. They want it to be a legit relationship. So what I'm thinking, Will, is it's going to get approved at some point because he is considered a model prisoner in prison. He's got a job. He's got friends in there. He had a couple
good friends He's got as good friends as any other inmate in prison. But it's basically a formality.
Yeah.
Like I said, as long as there's nothing that pops up that's a red flag, for the warden, he will approve it. It's not going to be, he could say, oh no, it's not going to happen right now. You have to do it during this time when we don't have, the holidays, or we don't have, shift offs, where people are taking vacation time. Because they're going to bring a civilian into the penitentiary. She has to go through all of the regular checks, is going to for visitation and everything else. And then once she's there to be married, they're going to be married in the same room. They're going to want to touch each other. So got to make sure she doesn't have any contraband, or she's not going to bring in anything unapproved.
Yeah. To me, it's doesn't even matter if it gets approved, because these two in their mind are married, whether we all like it or not. And
right.
That's, I think we all agree, it's repulsive. Look at this ring. Well, here's something we know. He didn't buy it.
No, God
She
no.
bought it herself.
She got it from somewhere, and it wasn't from Chris. She could have gotten it from Chris's parents. Somebody from in his side of the family could have, bought it or given her the money for it, or something that she purchased herself directly beforehand.
Right. And we also have to assume just because it looks like a diamond doesn't mean it is. It's, could be one of those, they call them lab grown diamonds these days. So, same thing as a cubic zirconia. But, this whole thing was staged. She agreed to talk to the Daily Mail. She knew they were taking pictures that day. I think what she wanted to do was get them pictures of her loading items because she is very active in the church. There are some photos I was able to dig up that I know other channels haven't used. But she's very active in her church community. She likes to volunteer. Here's some of that. Some things she was posting in the past that she would take part in. My assumption is this relationship started as maybe pen pals. She has a brother who's incarcerated in Ohio. I have a feeling she did some church outreach groups and got mixed up with Chris Watts.
That is one of the more common ways that, besides pen pal
yes.
relationship, that is one of the more common ways that they actually do get involved, and start relationships. And there's a lot that I see it all the time, and I hear it all the time in comments and talking with people when it comes to women and men who date inmates and fall in love with inmates. Why would you do that?
Let's bring this
Yeah,
up.
I would never do that. You couldn't make me, I wouldn't communicate with them. There's a whole other system out there that a lot of people really do not understand when it comes to inmates, and pen pals and, and fall in love with them from behind bars.
Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
So Will was kind enough to put some slides together for us. How does someone like Chris Watts meet a potential partner like Lizzie Henderson? Bingo, number one. We kind of just nailed it. Those religious outreach programs, a lot of people take part in these, and they go and visit prisoners in person. They start writing them, and I'm sure that he's putting on this same show that he put on for everyone else in the community before he did what he did. And she's fallen to the point where she is publicly announcing her relationship, which I was always wondering if she'd ever come out, because we were slowly watching this and the visits were becoming more and more and more.
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially since June.
Yes. And then you start to see the family fall back in their visits too. We have age as a factor. Ronnie had a massive heart attack. I believe it was last year. And Cindy had a knee surgery. So, it's, I hate to say it, but I think visiting Chris is not at the top of their priority list anymore.
I think it still would be if he was closer.
You think so?
Oh yeah, if he was in North Carolina or Virginia or someplace, closer to home, I think that mommy, dearest would be there, a heartbeat, every chance she could.
See, I heard that they're actually really pissed about this. But I didn't hear it from her mouth myself, so I can't.
Right.
Thank you for the jewels, Tiger. We really appreciate it. It helps us out. I didn't hear it from Cindy's mouth. I mean, if I did, I would share it with you guys. But from what I have heard from other sources, they asked Chris, don't do this. Don't put on another show and kind of drag everyone through the mud again. You know, can have your relationship, but you don't need to take it to the extent of getting married, because Shanann's family doesn't need to see it. Shanann can't get married again, so there's really no reason you should be getting married either. But look at him. Doesn't give a shit what his parents think. He went and did it on the week of the anniversary, the 8-year anniversary. It just shows you how much more diabolical and evil, because you damn well know the two of them had a conversation of, hey, I'm going to go talk to the Daily Mail and they're going to do this interview with me. And then I'm sure he said, well, when is it going to be released? Well, of course it's going to be released the week of, you know, when it happened, because they're trying to dig up any new nugget of a story to put together. I also like these bullet points here, Will, about prison staff and fellow inmates, because a great example of fellow inmates is Christina Riccello, who is writing Dylan Tallman, who is really actually trying to get to Chris. And they exchange letters in there and give away addresses too, which is so scary to think about.
Well, there's a whole system, and when it comes to jails, federal prisons, and state prisons, an entire system where the communications, you know, with an individual from the outside, a pen pal, it's worth more than gold to them. If you have your currency, your top ramen, your coffee, and stuff like that, your day-to-day, you know, currency, but a good pen pal on the outside that is willing to support you, you know, or put money on your books or your inmate account, you know, whatever you want, however you want to refer to it as, that's worth more than anything else. Someone's going to tell you about what's going on the streets, you know, who's going to write in, who's going to come visit. And these inmates, they will trade these, you know, the addresses and information about people back and forth. And there's a whole system. It's called, you know, the pen pal lover scam that goes on where they
tell, Will. Do tell.
Oh yeah.
Spill the tea.
The systems. So if you could imagine in your head a flow chart, it's you know, what was called the flow chart, the love scam. It starts off with they come up with with a profile of yourself. The inmate. Now I'm talking about the inmate. The inmate comes up with a profile of themselves, and they don't tell anyone else about it. That's at the top of the profile. You know, so if you're in for murder, you're not a murderer anymore. You are, you know, wrongfully convicted white collar criminal, or blue collar criminal, whatever you want to be. You can have any kind of education. You make a profile of yourself, and they will take a notebook and they will put that profile in the front of the notebook, and they will memorize that as their new life to the pen pal that they're writing to. The next step down is from the flow chart, starting at the top, working our way down, is pen pal social media. How do you get a pen pal, you know, through social media? A great example is people who contact you, you know, hey, why don't you fire me off an email? You know, I'd love to talk to you about the weather, you know, in a chat room. Like,
yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about the weather.
Yeah, and then they get that initial that they send me a letter. Great, they got that first letter. Then you write them a letter. They're kind of vague about it, and then they slowly build up the relationship from there. If they can't get you through like communication through a social media, there are actual networks out there that all they do is put people together as pen pals for inmates, and that's all they do. Then there are inmates who will set up accounts for each other, set up a profile, and maybe it's a YouTube channel and it'll have a profile or a Facebook and it's got a picture and it's got a background story and everything else. Never mentions anything about that the inmate, they are an actual inmate incarcerated at all. And they may never tell you that they're an inmate in an institution.
That's creepy.
The next part is they start to love bomb you, a rapid emotional attachment. They want to ramp that up. You're so much to me. You mean so much to me. I can't go on without you. That's the next step down in the love bombing and rapid emotional attachment. If at that point the inmate feels that the person is pulling away, they go back to step one and they reinvent themselves and find another person to replace it.
Oh.
So then the next step down after that is the reveal. I'm actually an inmate, but they increase the fact that they were set up or dirty cop put me in here,
right?
Crooked DA. It's always someone else's fault. It's not theirs. But they're never going to directly come out and say that part. Then the next step is the fabricated emergencies, asking for small cash requests, small help. I need to go see the eye doctor. I think there's something wrong with my vision, my left eye, or
my glasses broke in a fight. Some guy punched me in the lunchroom. Will, can I borrow $50?
Yeah, I need that $10 for my copay to go see the optometrist. And they only come once a month, and it's tomorrow. It's always going to be an emergency situation. It's never going to be like, can you give me put $20 on my books? It's going to be next month, where you have time to rethink the entire thing and not act on it. They want you to do it now. And it will escalate from there as they are constantly building up the emotional attachment to you. In that entire situation, again, you're hoping that somewhere along the line, and they actually tell you they're an inmate. But there are a lot of these scams where they never tell you that they are an inmate. How do they do that? If you're writing this person as a pen pal and they never tell you, what they do is a former inmate who is not in prison has a family member or themselves on the outside. They write the letter to Joe Schmo, whoever their buddy is that was in the penitentiary with them. They write that letter out to them. They take it out of the envelope, put it in another envelope, and address it to you, individual. And yet now all your communications, now you look like you're writing someone who is
on the outside.
Akron, Ohio. I got a pen pal in Akron, Ohio. Well, Akron, Ohio, it doesn't say penitentiary on it anywhere. And then you just keep on that communication. Or what they will do is they send the letter out to that buddy. That buddy then sends it to what's called a mail forwarding center. And they can say that they're in Canada or they're in Iowa or Florida or Washington State or California. It can be anywhere, wherever these companies are set up at. And that's all that they do is they take things out of an envelope. It has no actual, it's got the address and everything on it. It's just mail that all they have to do is open up one envelope and dump it in outgoing mail. It's already got the stamp on it and everything else. So you see an address in one location and it never comes back to a penitentiary. So you think that you're writing you got a pen pal in California or Iowa or wherever it might be. But
I don't even know who does pen pals anymore, but obviously there's people who do it.
A lot of people. Now, with that, my grandmother lived in 100 West Virginia. Why is it called 100 West Virginia? Because when the town was formed, there were 100 people.
And
that place is so isolated. When they got a new casket at the actual funeral home, everybody would come by to see it because that was something new.
They had like a press
nothing there.
conference, like a ribbon cutting for the casket.
It's like, oh, look, they got a new casket at the funeral home, so people would stop by, you know,
I'm
4 or
gonna
5
get that.
I
I'm gonna
want
give
that
me
casket.
that.
Yeah.
I'm
There are a
gonna
lot
put
of
a down
places
payment
like
on
that
that
that are
one.
isolated.
Shit. Well, now they've got tablets in Dodge, and the gala interviewed Lisa, who is the one who saw the makeout sesh, and she got interviewed by the Daily Mail as well. Which, you know, good for her. Great. Hope she got some money from it. But she was showing me that there's this app. And the funny thing is, it's called Getting Out. Like, why the hell would it be called Getting Out? Okay. And she took a screenshot of me, and Chris Watts is listed on there because remember, she was visiting someone who was at Dodge at the time. That's how she even had this run in with him. Got to put my ice pack on for my back. So she sent me a screenshot and was like, he's on there, but you can't write him unless he adds you. So I can see here's where like, because so many people are like, would you write him? Would you write him? And like, first off, you know, you've already told me, well, A, he's probably not going to tell me the truth. So what's the point? I guess the curiosity of it, you know. B, I'd need a P.O. box because I'd be terrified that he would share my actual address with other inmates. But the sneaky way to do it, I can see that some chicks probably do it this way, is that they start writing someone that Chris knows and say something like, hey, I want to connect to him, or, you know, I have a really great Bible verse I want to share with him. Could you get him to add me on the tablet? And then that way, you're just communicating through the email address, and it's not an actual address, right? But it's like, makes me wonder, someone asked in one of the last live streams, what do you think that Lizzie thinks of the other women writing him? I think she doesn't care.
If she knows.
Right. But it is public record, right?
No, he can write out to anybody he wants as long as there's not a protection order against him. And they're probably a no contact order, like, you know, hey, you can't write, you know, or call to the victim or the victim's family. He probably can't do that, but if you can't get him to stop it's okay. Let me back up here. If there was a protection order in place, what a lot of inmates will do is like, hey, I can't contact my ex-girlfriend because she was a co-conspirator in the crime or whatever, and she's out already. And there may be rules that say, okay, you can't contact, you know, people who are on your case itself. But what they'll do is they'll just give the letter to Bob or whoever, you know, couple of cells away and say, Bob, I need you to send this letter out. Bob doesn't put his name on it, or he puts the envelope in the letter inside of his envelope and mails it out. It goes out to his wife, Sarah, you know, who was hooking up with Jody. And, you know, and they then send a letter out to, you know, the co-conspirator or the person that they're not supposed to contact with. They have nothing but time on their hands.
I was
and
just about to say that.
Every possible way around it.
Their job all day is to hustle. That's all it is, all day long. Like, and writing and coming up with these schemes in their mind. And these tablets are going to just make it so much easier. I personally think that she doesn't care if he writes people, because in her mind, I'm the only one visiting him. And if someone else wants to put money on his books, cool. Because I looked at the channel Plunder, and she did a deep dive on Lizzie, and she discovered that Lizzie recently, in the past 2 years, has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Go do your own research. We always implore you to do that, because a lot of things are public record, or you pay a couple bucks, you know, to do a search. I trust Plunder. She's always been very accurate. So I feel comfortable saying that and giving her credit. So Lizzie could be in this herself, trying to figure out how to make a dime.
Should be. Don't know.
I don't doubt that there's a romantic thing going on, but I also don't think she's telling him, I don't want you writing anyone anymore. I think she's kind of like, hey, if you can get money on the books, cool.
Former warden put it to me this way, is when it comes to inmates and the amount of time that they have on their hands to think up ways around court orders and everything else. He put it this way. He said they have an abundance of uninstructed time.
Mm-hmm. Masterminding. And they all become lawyers behind bars too, you know, and they're exchanging legal advice all day long. So, you know, as this slide says, you know, he is not officially married yet. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter because in their eyes, they are married. We also know that she did do the legal name change, and kudos to Will for putting this together for us. So you would go do that at the circuit court.
Yep.
And this was interesting. When I did that interview with Scott Reich, he said that he went to Nicole Kessinger's name change hearing. And then they decided, because he showed up, we're going to do the digital method instead of have her come in. So I thought that was really ironic, but
yeah, you know. She can have the court hearing wherever she lives in the state of Wisconsin. She can have that, do the paperwork, everything on the same day. She has to, and without a marriage certificate or with anything else, she can change her last name to Watts legally. She just has to fill out one of those three different forms: the CV 450, CV 460, or 470. The 470 is used more by those who are escaping domestic violence situations because it can be sealed, and it's sealed for 160 days from that point. To give the person escaping a domestic violence situation an opportunity to, you know, escape and, you know, reset their lives.
And we believe that's what Kessinger probably did, right? Is the 460?
No, those are for the state of Wisconsin. The numbers.
Oh, okay. So that's just Wisconsin.
It's not but yeah, I'm not going to say that. I know who she is and I know where she is. But Kessinger took a name that is known to the family. Let's just say that.
Her family, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen her cousin, Will, but they look pretty much identical to where.
Pretty close.
If I saw her in a store, I would be like, that's her.
Yeah. Pretty close. There's definitely a lot of family resemblance there.
Yes. Are we being trolled by Chris and Lizzie?
There's a distinct possibility that the whole thing, since what, you know, I haven't seen anything from Chris's side of this entire thing. We don't know what's really going on other than what, you know, we got in the Daily Mail.
I get what you're saying. We see visitation records, but he has not come out and said. I mean, we've heard rumor from other, you know, people like, you know, I got to be careful with the name so I don't get in trouble on YouTube. Dave, who is close with the Watts family, who has confirmed, yes, this is a relationship. But Chris himself has not made a public statement or wrote a public letter and told her, like, here's something interesting, Will, now that you bring that up. A little shocked he didn't tell her, oh, you can share a letter between us, and then she'd be like, oh, here's a love letter between the two of us so that you can see it. Here's proof of our love for each other. Which, we see that kind of thing a lot in these rag mag. That's what I call them, rag mags, like back in the 80s, the National Enquirer and all of that.
To answer Vic Noyd one question, it's part of public record. And
Yes.
like another YouTube creator, Scott Reich with Crime Talk, he actually went to the hearing. They're publicly posted that you have to post them by law that this is going to be happening, and here's the date and time, and you can go to these things. Like 99.9% of the people changing their names are doing it because they got married and they're taking the other spouse's last name. But yeah, there are circumstances where people just like, I'm tired of my name. Maybe they're escaping abuse, and they're less than 1% who are changing their name to get a fresh start and move on in this world. But it's part of public record. All I had to do was file a request. I didn't even have to file a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information request. I just filed it with the county, and they sent me in the mail. I got an actual stamped copy from the county clerk's office. I think it cost like $4.
And you guys, remember, you pay tax dollars. Utilize the resources you have. Like, Will and I are not special. We don't have some magic badge that says media press pass. Like, that's an illusion, guys. It really is. We have, but they could magically get you into things because people were dumb enough to think it meant something, but it didn't. Right. But, you pay tax dollars. A lot of these public records, and it doesn't have to be this case. It could be any case. You could have something go down in your hometown and you want to know what happened. Go file a report. Go reach out to your local public information officer with your sheriff's officer or police department and say, I want to know what happened. And
you have the right to know.
Yes.
As long as we have open courts in this nation, and everything is not behind a closed door and off the record, as long as we still have that, you can do the same thing that we would do.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get confused because, let's say you roll up on an accident, and I think we've all done this. You roll up on an accident or a scene, right? And there's police lights. It's crazy. And you go to the cop, what happened? What's going on? And they tell you, well, I can't tell you. Well, yeah, because they're not supposed to tell you. They're cops on the scene, investigating, controlling, the area. Yeah, everyone's done it, right? You roll up and you're like, what happened? And then they're like, well, we can't talk to you about this right now. That doesn't mean in an hour you can't call the sheriff's office and find out. Do it. You have the right to know. They just make you feel that way because they're trying to intimidate you, but don't.
A lot of places though have seriously, started to crack down and delay the release of information because it has become a niche, I guess you could call it,
yes,
to get in the face of officers and record them. And not just officers, but county clerks, and they want that. These people want the reaction of it.
Yes.
So and as long as people keep on watching the videos on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok of a county clerk getting upset and storming off, or a cop saying you can't record here or whatever, as long as people keep on watching that, it's just going to get worse and worse out there.
Which sucks because those people aren't necessarily trained.
No.
Media trained, right? And the best thing they can do is just say, this is an active investigation. I can't tell you anything, right? Like, that would be the smartest thing to do instead of saying, I can't tell you, because then it makes it sound like I have something you don't have, instead of ma'am, it's an open investigation. I wish I could tell you what's going on, but I can't. Right? Like, I'm going to handle that more gently than you telling me no.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like the delivery of it. Hey, Wendy, welcome in. So I would never fall for an inmate or a pen pal scam. However, the fact of it is, according to the research that Will has done, which is pretty deep because of his personal connection to someone who does research on this whole, there's a name for this, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get to that. But 80% of those being scammed never even know they're being scammed. You guys ever watch that show, Love After Lockup? Have you ever watched that, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious. These people.
And scary.
Oh, my God. Yeah, these people who think that this person's going to come out of a system that they've been in for years and all of a sudden be Prince Charming. Or, you know, a princess or whatever, and be totally dedicated to you, be a homebody, stay home with you and cuddle when they all have drug addictions. And the first thing they're trying to do is get out and get a fix, right? It's like crazy when you watch that show. Some of them make it, but most of them don't.
A very, very, very small percentage of them ever make it.
So 45% are never made aware that they're even communicating with an inmate. That's terrifying.
Yep.
And when they're made aware that the person's an inmate, they're so invested that they keep the relationship going. Lizzie has a brother I mentioned earlier in the stream who is incarcerated in Ohio. The Daily Mail reached out to him and said, "Did you know about your sister's relationship?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I know she's involved with an inmate in Wisconsin." And he said, "Do you know who it is?" He said, "No." And he said, "Well, it's Chris Watts." And he said, "What'd he do?" Which is shocking, right? What'd he do? And then they told him, and he goes, his quote was, "Oh, yeah, that's bad. That's like real bad." And it was just like, that's what you have to say about your sister with a man like that. But brother kind of has not the greatest charges either. So not shocked by that.
No.
But also can see where she is maybe got involved with something with her brother, you know, coming to visit him and getting involved in church and helping these prisoners find God. Because we all know they find God in prison. And she developed this relationship so intensely with Chris that she moved out to Wisconsin now, which is...
Yeah, quit her job and relocated. Just so she could be closer to visiting him.
And when you have a real estate license, you can take that anywhere. A lot of people, let's bring that photo up. We're all like, I can't believe she's wearing this shirt that she works for Keller Williams. Well, she doesn't work for Keller Williams anymore. You can actually be an independent agent without a company backing you in some states. So apparently that's, yeah, so that's the route she's gone down. I wouldn't doubt she might book some clients who just have curiosity. And might just be like, hey, I'm actually interested in seeing this house, or maybe I'm thinking about putting my house up for sale.
Or maybe you know, she can make that connection with somebody. It's like, hey, I got a brother or a sister or something like that, and you know that was incarcerated for quite a few years, and I wish they would have had a second chance. And here you are, you know, a good Christian, you know, giving someone a second chance, and then get clients that way.
Yeah. And we have to remember, if it is true that he has an IQ of like 138, I think he said between 138 140. I mean, he's not dumb. I have talked to the girl who helped publish Dylan Tallman's book. She told me that Chris is a phenomenal writer. I know that's shocking, but he sounds like a book smart type person, but not a street smart type guy, in my opinion. Welcome from the UK. They love our disaster crime here. Just our system so messed up.
It's
Types.
I've got a lot of fans, Jennifer, that are overseas.
Mhm.
London, and everywhere else, UK, Wales, Ireland. The only difference between, what's going on here in America and there is we have the freedom of the press and we have open courts where we can actually get the information about what is really going on and how many crimes, are really taking place. Where in other countries they can skew the numbers, whoever's running for office. Well, crime's down, when you yourself can see it's up. But I know the same sick, twisted individuals, type of individuals, your serial killers and stuff like that are here in America are in every country around the planet.
Well,
Same people.
Crazy thing when you bring this up here in the document, the type of women that fall for these scams.
Yep.
And this is according to the BOP and the FBI. So we're giving you real stats here. Highly educated women, those with low self-esteem. I will give you a great example. Do you remember watching the Prison Pen Pals episode with Dylan Tallman, Christina Ricciello? Yes, she's talking about her mother being attracted to Manson and almost went to go live on the ranch with him and da-da-da-da-da. Then she started writing Chris Watts. She had a degree in psychology. It just goes to show you, anyone can have the brains to do something and set their mind to it. Doesn't mean that they're making sound decisions, right?
True.
Women with low self-esteem, I love that, because maybe Lizzie is in a place where she's thinking to herself, I really can't do any better. I've always tried to date, men outside of prison and it doesn't work for me. They always cheat on me. So I'm going to try something different.
And there are key psychological and emotional motivations for women that fit into each and every one of these that are not. So if you're highly educated, you have the low self-esteem, entrepreneurs, independence, your savior complex, those seeking low maintenance, and survivors. So we're talking a vast majority of different kinds of, backgrounds and education levels and everything else. For this goes for women and for men. Yeah, but we're talking about just a woman, here with Lizzie, Henderson, who fell in love with Christopher Watts. I mean, but this happens to men as well.
Yeah.
I mean, look how many men, over the years have written, Jodi Arias.
Yes, or Casey Anthony when she was locked up.
Yeah,
because she came out right away and she had boyfriends. So
Casey Anthony, after she got out, there were men who were still writing her and still sending her money.
I mean, she boyfriend up right away. It wasn't like public because of course they were scared probably for their own safety. But I mean, she was living with her attorney right away. And then she finally has moved to Tennessee where she's got a boyfriend there. I mean, another great example, Scott Peterson.
Yep.
I also like the seeking inside information or motives for other true crime buffs, because my first thought on Lizzie, everybody, was that this was just going to be a tactic to write a book. That was my hunch.
That was one of the first things that I thought of too.
Yeah. I would still think that, except for after talking to Lisa, she said that their connection really seemed deep. And I'm thinking to myself, well, just because she made out with him doesn't mean she doesn't, a woman's got an entrepreneur mindset, right? She's got to play the act. And
Right.
so that goes up to number 3 on the list here, over here. She's got to play the role. She's got to get into it. She's got to invest into it, that she's really into this guy because she's got to get this book written. And if she can get Chris to give us one little detail that hasn't been released, that book's going to blow up. She's going to get an interview. So I'm still kind of on the fence thinking that's her MO, but I can't prove it. I can't prove it.
Scott 63 DX4X brought up a good point there, that if they don't live together, so it's a controlled environment. And that is a whole other subset of the psychological and emotional motivations for why certain men and women fall in love with inmates, is they fall in love with a partner who is incarcerated, who cannot physically leave, cheat on them, or hurt them emotionally or physically like previous partners.
I mean, they can cheat, Will, if they really wanted to.
Yeah, but as much as people want to believe that homosexual relationships in prison and with men and women happen all the time, and they're, and use the hard R word as well, it doesn't happen as much as people.
I agree. I think there's, and I'll tell you a great. Thank you so much for gifting memberships. That's so kind of you, Gone Girl.
Love you, Gone Girl.
A great example of that, and you don't have to agree with me by any means, but Dylan Tallman told me that, he was pissed off at the Daily Mail because they wrote the article. I'm sure you've all seen it, that they were having a gay relationship. Yeah. And I asked Dylan about it. I said, I have nothing against gay people. I'm just going to ask you the question. And he said, no, there was no relationship. And I said, I figured there wasn't, but I'm going to ask you. And he goes, Jen, he has so much money on his books to burn that anyone could go to Chris. And he is, and I hated to hear it, but he said, he's so kind that he'll buy you anything you need. And I was in need of new clothes, deodorant. And he said, we don't get lotion in jail, but we can get Vaseline. So he bought him Vaseline, he bought him underwear, he bought him anything he needed, toothpaste, toothbrush, all of the works. Now, Dylan was telling me anything you buy from, why do I keep calling it commissary? What is it called?
You can call it commissary or cantina.
Canteen, yeah, okay.
Whichever.
Anything you buy has to have your name on it. Because
if it's a physical item and not a edible. Yeah, if you buy a radio, it has to have your name on it. If you buy underwear, it has to have your name on it or your prison ID number on it.
Right.
Anything that you can't or you shouldn't be eating. I'm sure there's people out there who have eaten a radio and.
Right.
But.
So Dylan told me that's the story. He's like, he said Chris had tons of money to burn on his books, bought me things. It ended up in my cell. It had his name on it. And I did request the police report myself. And there's a ton of other things that were found in Dylan's cell, except the Daily Mail only runs with the juicy, salacious part, right. Underwear and the petroleum jelly. They leave out the toothpaste, the deodorant, the tissues, the shoelaces, all the not fun things, the not sexy stuff.
Because that doesn't sell it doesn't sell, eyes on the paper, and on.
Right.
I mean, it's just like you worked in, in the news industry, you got to lead with a headline story, a head on the freeway, a tragic accident, something like that. You got to lead off with that. And that's where, a lot of the EMPs and Daily Mail, they have to lead with that to get eyes on their publications. Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I think the majority of people know it's not true. I said, but I think things are getting back to your point, Will, is things are a little more locked down than we all think. They're not just like roaming the halls, making out with each other and stuff like that. It's not.
I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen at the volume that a lot of people want to make it out to be. I mean, and when it comes to, and I don't have the statistics in front of me right now, but when it comes to actual, if you can call, if you want to consider it, homosexual relationships, it happens more in women's penitentiaries in jail
Yes.
than it does in men's. But it's not necessarily a sexual relationship. It's an emotional attachment in women's prisons and in jails and penitentiaries and stuff.
That
They,
one right there.
yeah,
That is a
women are emotional beasts. People, come on. They need someone who's there. They need a shoulder to cry on. Chris Watts probably needs that too, but well, if he starts crying at night, they're going to tell him to shut up, or they're going to beat him until he shuts up. Because that's what men are supposed to do: is take that emotional baggage and shove it way down inside and never speak of it.
yeah. Another interesting thing before I get off the topic of Dylan Tallman, I asked him, and then I do want to get back to this tiger because she is a wonderful example of working the whole system this way too, but as a female, the opposite of Chris. I asked Dylan, in his book with Sherilyn Cadle, he told Sherilyn that he had a story memorized and he would read out loud to the girls in his cell. And he told Cadle that he would read to them and pray to them out loud. And I said, Dylan, did you ever hear him doing this? And he said, no. And if I did, if he told me if he was, I would have heard him. And he's like, because Jen, the walls are so thin, you hear a cough, you hear everything. He goes, I could feel when he was upset because it's just, that's how thin the walls are. And you can just like kind of feel the energy around you. But Jodi Arias is a great example. She got 2 female inmates to fall in love with her and start running her social media accounts, even when they were on the outside. Like that is some mind effery. You know what I mean? When you can get someone to continue to do things for you when you're not in a controlled environment. And it's because they thought they had this magical connection with her.
Yeah. Roy's mama, has a good point. If she's using him too, she probably reminds him of NK Nicole Kessinger. If you look at Nicole Kessinger and you look at Shanann and you look at the girls that Christopher Watts dated somewhat in high school before he met Shanann, they're all pretty much the same. It's just like and you can pick a lot of different killers out there who may have a body type or a look that they may not even consciously know that they're looking for, that or they're attracted to. It's just like that's an attractive woman to Christopher Watts, and they may all remind them of of that one individual, and everybody else is just taking another part of that for them. Maybe with Lizzie, it's maybe it's the that go get it attitude, like that Shanann had, that it was attractive to him, or that she's willing to take the risks, like Shanann was for the family. Well, everybody wants to, well, not everyone, but a lot of people want to crap on Shanann for overspending and taking risks and buying product and hoarding it in her garage and tubs. That's how the game works, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never been in an MLM, you don't know how it is from the outside. You buy low, sell high, just like the stock market.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Will. I didn't think about that until you told me that. I was like, oh, okay, that's why she did it. I always thought she did it because she wanted to keep her status where it was, and she had to buy the product to do that.
Oh, that's part of it. Is part of it true, as well, because if she didn't have customers for those products for Shanann, she then sold them to her downline. Here, I got a deal for you. That product is now $7 a piece. I can give it to you for $6, and she only bought it at $4. So
Yeah.
and she had it, and I can get it for you right now. Oh, you got a customer that wants, 50 of this, but you can only have 30. I can give it to you, the other 20 that you need at this price, and you're still making a profit. And all of that, filters up. The money filters up, with Shanann to keep her status, to keep the Lexus and everything else.
Yeah, I'm curious also, like maybe he is into the whole religion thing because when you look at these pictures, guys, I hate to say this because I don't know this woman, but she's kind of giving me exotic dancer vibes with her outfits.
In that picture, yeah. But
I mean,
no.
I don't, I'm trying to be kind and not pass judgment, but like those are the vibes I'm getting before, and now we're getting like a new vibe.
So
And I'm
I kind of
wondering,
went back through the social media posts that I could find,
yeah,
and for the pictures that she posted, she posts an awful lot of pictures you've probably seen as well, where it's just her.
yes. And
And
I meant to send you the link of where I found some of these that are
oh,
not so popular because I just wanted
it,
you to
it,
see
it
them.
didn't take me but a day to come across 20 or 25 of them, photos myself. All I did was put her name into Google. I mean,
Yeah,
and I found her, her Facebook and her Instagram and
or
and she's
LinkedIn.
very active on Pinterest, by the way.
She
She
had
likes a lot of recipes and a lot of knick-knacky stuff. But I
she
guess
had
that's
like
true.
some accounts too where she would use nicknames and like reverse the names of her real name and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
you can tell she tried to fly under the radar for a while, but I mean, records aren't going to lie. You cannot walk into a prison with a fake name and be Joe Smith and Betty White and go visit Chris Watts. Like,
No.
not going to
No.
work.
You are checked out. Especially if they're looking for the prisons, city jails, county jails, state prisons, and federal penitentiaries. For the most part, not all federal penitentiaries. For what I'm about to say, so keep that in mind. They will not let felons come in and visit felons unless you
Right.
get what's called a dispensation, a waiver from the actual, warden or the prison itself. Like, hey, you know what? Me and my husband are both meth heads. He's in prison. I got a couple felonies on my record, and I want to come see him. They will waive that for that individual to come visit, in that situation. So
Yeah, and that's another thing too. When I was working with John Reif last week with Wisconsin, Lizzie has to have a completely clean record.
mhm.
She cannot have
No open
any
cases.
issues with anyone in that prison system that works there. I mean, I'm telling you, if she passed a nurse and looked at her the wrong way, and that person said, "Nope, it's off, it's done." So she's got to be on her best behavior for this to happen. I personally think it is going to happen. I do.
Oh yeah, it's going to happen.
I think maybe they're waiting a little bit for things to die down after it being announced, but I do think he is going to get this
Oh,
pushed through.
he's gonna get it. Again, it's basically a formality. If the warden really did, deny it, it was more like, okay, let's get the information and making sure that the inmate is not using this individual and that individual on the outside is not using the inmate, for something before they approve it. They want a track record. It's like marrying someone from outside of the country and then wanting to move them here. They
That's a
want to
lot of
show
work.
there's a relationship, that there's a connection there, that
Prove it,
oh,
documentation to show
oh,
that
yeah.
there's a real relationship going on. Yeah.
Who I saw the comment earlier, and I'm truly sorry for not pointing this out earlier, But somebody had put in the comment section, I don't know if it was Vic or who it might have been, or Tiger or whoever, but I had mentioned that she has the same middle name as Chris Lee.
Yes, there's so many Lees. Nico Lee, Christopher Lee. I mean, like, you know what? If I'm looking at this case on a spiritual level, there is something with that name that sticks. That is eerie. That is eerie.
Christopher Watts is in his housing pod. There are 9 people with the middle name of Lee.
Creepy.
Lee or Leroy.
That is creepy. Before we jump into some of your viewer questions, I did want to bring this up. I've gotten so many people being rude and saying, well, she didn't have lupus. It didn't show up in the autopsy. I don't know if she had lupus or not. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a rheumatologist. And those are the 2 doctors that you would need to diagnose that. However, I will tell you this. Sandy Rusick wants donations to go to the Lupus Foundation or St. Jude or Missing Exploited Children, because that's what she asked on Dr. Phil. So that's why I mention it.
That's exactly what you said on Dr. Phil.
So if you want to donate, you do it directly. You don't send Will and I money. I mean, if you want to send Will and I money, we're going to use it for StreamYard, which is great. But if you are like, this case really bothers me, I want to do something, my heart hurts, and I feel like I want to do something, donate to one of these organizations where the money is going to go somewhere and do something in honor of the victims. So I just wanted to
with Lupus Foundation, if you make a donation, you can actually put in there in the memo section who you're donating the money on behalf of. If it's a loved one or somebody else that you know who has had lupus, and so you can do that, because 100% of every dime that I have made off of covering this case, I have donated to the United States Lupus Foundation in the name of Shanann. And it's all you got to do is you have the internet and you're watching this, put it in, and ask the Lupus Foundation for the receipts, and they'll tell you exactly how much money has been donated on behalf of Shanann.
Yeah, I love that everything's documented too. One thing I was trying to get, I found this really interesting cat on TikTok, Will, and he is what are the doctors called that work in the morgue and do the autopsies? They have a special name. Coroners? Yes. Okay.
Well, coroners are not always, professionals. They may be an elected official.
Yes, that too, depending on how small the town is.
Yeah.
So.
No joke, ladies and gentlemen. You could have an elected official, somebody who just ran for the position as your coroner, and then when it comes to doing autopsies, they have to go outside of the county to get someone.
They might be mayor and. Okay, I'm going to stop making fun of small town stuff. That's not funny. But anyway, I found this coroner on TikTok, and he shares all these really, I'm going to be honest, they're kind of gross details, but I asked him if he would join us on the show because I would like to know if my MS would show up in my autopsy. I would like to know if lupus shows up in an autopsy, because from what I know, and this is just based on my knowledge, it's not an easy thing to diagnose. It is not like you run a blood test and you're like, yep, you're confirmed for MS. Yep, you have fibromyalgia. Yep, you've got lupus. So unless they're looking for those things like an autoimmune disease, I don't believe it's going to show up in the autopsy. But I'm going to tell you, I will get the answer for you guys. And we're going to put this shit to rest, because I'm really sick of people saying, well, she didn't have lupus, or it doesn't matter. That's what she cared about. And that's where the donation should go if you want to do it in her honor. However, I do want the answer. I do want facts, and I want to know. I believe that they could tell you if someone had lupus, but they'd have to run certain panels, which cost more money. And I can guarantee you the county's not paying for that.
Yeah, and when it comes to the autopsies of Bella, Celeste, and Shanann, they did not run complete autopsies on any of them. They did what's called a precursory, examination of the girls and of Shanann. They could have went a lot farther to see, were there any medications or illegal drugs in any of their systems. And yes, there are certain chemicals and stuff like that that were found in the two girls, but every single one of those chemicals that were found in Celeste and Bella all come from the crude oil and the pumping and extraction of that. Did they run a complete, blood screen and panel on Shanann? No. I can tell you that right now. So anybody out there that that wants to say, look, she didn't have lupus or whatever, I look at those people and I'm like, well, that's great, thank you. Were you there that day? No. Then you don't have a damn idea what the hell you're talking about, because we're like, well, Chris can come back and fight this. No, he can't. He agreed to the plea deal that he can never fight the evidence. He can never come back and question that. He's got two avenues and only two avenues to an appeal, and it's always been the same, and he'll never get an appeal on either one of them. The only two avenues are: one, his attorney was a complete moron and did not fight for him. His attorney told him and the family straight up, look, let's just go forward and see what they have and everything else. But Chris said no. He wanted to take the plea deal because they're going to take the death penalty off the table. Yeah. And he chose that. That was him. He went against advice of counsel. So he can never file an appeal that his attorney didn't do anything for him. The only other avenue to an appeal that Chris has ever had is if the court made a grievous error against him in some way. Either they tabulated up the how many life sentences he had to do, plus the rest of it for an abuse of a corpse for Nico, all of that stuff. If they made some kind of grievous error against him, he could appeal that. But even a first-year attorney, back when this case happened originally, would be able to tell you, yeah, they made an error right here, or his attorney made an error right here. His attorney did everything he was supposed to do, and the court did everything. They dotted all the I's, they crossed all the T's, they did everything for him. So he has no evidence to appeal.
Interesting fact that Scott Reich told me, and I asked him twice because I was in shock when he told me this. Apparently, Chris can still file that 35C, but right. you only get one shot at it.
Well, one bite at the apple.
And that's crazy. I mean, I asked him. I said, whoa. It said he can still file that, and he said yes, in the state of Colorado, and that's where Scott practices. So I was like, you got to be shitting me. And I was like, well, I remember him having the phone call about, and you can see if he's going to do that, he's plotting it and planning it for the right time.
Yeah, he doesn't stand, a shot in the dark on it.
On that, yeah.
It'd be like a 0.001% chance that they would hear it and actually schedule, because they'd have to fly him back from Wisconsin to Colorado,
right?
Be there,
and then he might end up back in Colorado too, for sentencing, for death sentence, if it got that far.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to put up with that chance. And Colorado still has the death penalty, where Wisconsin doesn't. He doesn't want to think of it from Chris's side. If you got that one chance, it's so far out, not even a chance at 0.5%.
Yeah.
Do you ever want to put yourself out there where the possibility is you do win it, and then they say, all right, well, I guess we're going to do resentencing here in the state of Colorado, and we're going to move you back here. And now, since you decided to do it, we're not going to take the death penalty off the table. We're just going to put the needle in your damn arm. And You think people showed up for Bundy's execution? Wow. People would show up for, an entire state of Colorado. We'd have one giant, party there to watch him, well, is it Colorado? No, it's not Colorado. I'm thinking of Utah. Utah has the firing
Yeah,
squad.
Colorado got rid of it. He was honestly so dumb that he didn't even know. I don't think Chris even understood that. I mean, thank God, but I don't think he understood that he wasn't getting fried no matter what.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is because I would have loved a full confession. I feel like the laws should change where you do a plea deal, just like Brian Koberger. You should have to plea right then and there and confess everything you did A to Z. Timeline of everything you did to the minute.
Yeah.
So that you can't come back.
That's never going to happen.
Yeah,
all they have to do is a Q2, the actual crime. Yes, I killed this person, and that's good enough for the court.
Which is ridiculous. Because look, we keep.
It'd be great, if we could get people like Kohlberger, the needle. Yeah. But we're not ever going to get those. There's a lot of other cases like Christopher Watson, Kohlberger, that I would love to see, get the needle.
I want to answer this question really quick because if you're new here and you're just joining and you don't know, I do have MS, multiple sclerosis. Lesions only show up on an MRI. So, like when they cut me open, they're not going to see the lesions on my spinal cord because they're so tiny that they actually usually have to put a dye in. The MRI. So like if you've ever heard a neurologist or a doctor say, we're going to do your MRI with contrast and without contrast, that means they're going to do it without dye and with dye. And usually with dye, the lesions show up better. So what I'm trying to say is unless they threw a corpse through an MRI machine, they're not going to see that the person had MS. My hunch is that they wouldn't be able to tell if you had lupus either. That's my hunch, but I'm going to find an expert to find that out for us because I'm dying to know that. Yes. Hey, Will, one thing I wanted to ask you before I forget. What was the part on the upper lip called that got torn? How come there was no blood?
I don't have the answer to that, but thank you for asking.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't I don't know the medical, reason why I didn't.
I was always wondering that. But was it? No, it wasn't in the autopsy report. I mean, but like Will said, maybe they just didn't do a very good detailed autopsy, but that's always something I thought you would find in the truck, but he did clean the truck. So
yeah, well, they didn't do a complete autopsy on any of them. They did what's called a cursory examination, and part of the cursory examination, when it came to like the two girls, they only noted what could be visibly seen. They did not do an examination to see if the girls had been sexually molested. They didn't do, examinations for anything that would have not caused death. Where was it? Bella? Yes. Bella had defensive wounds, and Celeste didn't. Right?
Right. Yeah, because Bella was lost.
Yeah. And then we know from Chris's own statement, if for what it's worth, and it's worth absolutely nothing because he's an habitual liar. He said that that Celeste, said what, Daddy, no, or whatever. Yeah. But
I don't know if that's true, honestly.
I don't know if it's true either, and nobody, unless you were standing there and actually saw it, you never know. I mean, Bella could have been pleading for her life the whole time as she was fighting him. But
I always wondered if she tried to get out of the truck. Like, I can't imagine sitting in that car after seeing what she did to the mom, what he did to the mom, than the sister, I would feel like natural reaction would be to run, to open the door and run. I know you're not getting anywhere, but I would think, I don't know, but maybe you're in shock and you couldn't move, or maybe
As a
he locked,
child,
yeah, or maybe he locked the doors.
child at that age, would you even have the flight, response? I mean, I would look back on the age of the children, and they've been taught, and told their entire lives, listen to
Yes.
mom, listen to daddy.
Yep.
And I couldn't imagine what that was like. You know, if mommy really was laying on the floor at the bottom of your feet, and you had to live the next 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it was, after you watched daddy take mommy out of the truck, and your sister is gone now, and you're all alone in those moments. What was that like? It had to be, even as a child, pure panic,
Mm-hmm.
or and so disconnected from everything that you've known to this point in your life. You're like, what is really going on here? What, when's Sissy coming back? When's
Right.
mommy coming back?
I always thought he actually put her in the bed of the truck.
I've definitely gone down that that exact same thought pattern.
Yes, I have too. I mean, I've even gone down the thought pattern of like kind of looking at some like psychics and mediums and spiritual people on TikTok. And there was a medium, and of course, I can't prove this, guys, but there was a medium that said that Shanann was with the girls and just kind of like protected them, and they were not even mentally there when everything happened. And I can't prove that. I don't have the science to prove it, but I really do hope so. I really hope that, they're in a better place and it wasn't as.
I know they're in a better place.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just terrified.
There's no place in hell for Christopher Watts.
Yeah. Especially after announcing all this shit the week of what happened. I just can't. So we've got some viewer questions. Yeah, I just said this too. That's crazy. Okay, so I think that Shanann's body was in the bed of the truck, not the cabin. What are your thoughts? In chat, you can chime in too on this.
So what do you think? Do you think that they put her, he put her in the bed?
I thought this slide was just my take already. Yeah, I think she was in the bed of the truck.
No. So I took 3 of them from the comment section on your past video.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, I think she was in the bed of the truck. I think that he was dumb and he didn't know enough about rigor mortis, and he probably thought, okay, she's going to become, and I'm sorry to be morbid, but he thought that she was going to become stiff at some point, and it was a 45-minute drive out to the oil fields, and he did not want her to be difficult to get out of the bed of the truck. I also think that there was a small part of him that didn't want to terrify the girls if they were in the bed of the truck or in the cab of the truck and ask a million questions, right? At least he'd have some control over them if she was in the bed of the truck versus right there at their feet. Those are just my thoughts on it. What do you think, Will?
I'm thinking how to it is a hard question, but at the same time I read Kitty Q's question. So and then which made me go down another thought pattern. Do I think that that he put her in the bed of the truck? I don't think so. I think he did layer in at the feet of the girls in the back seat, and only because of the amount of tools and hoses and stuff like that that he had in the bed of the truck. But Kitty
Yeah.
Coo, gee, were the girls alive? Um, I read that and then made me Kitty Coo's great. She always makes me think of something completely different.
Yeah.
Um, I love viewers like that who ask questions, and then make you think. It's like, wait, I've got an answer. I know my answer, and then you're like, wait a minute, think
Yeah.
back,
That's the whole
re-roll
reason.
my head.
That's the whole reason we do this. We don't do it to hear ourselves talk. We like to have discussions with you guys. Back seat. I open on the bottom. Shanann would fit under the back seat that flips up. Yeah. Okay. So I get what you're saying. Half on the floor where the girl's feet were, parallel on top of Shanann, if that makes sense. It does. It does, Vic. And I'm sure like my SUV slides back.
Yeah, it does, Vic, but there is with like a plastic tray. He would have to take that plastic tray out. But I definitely know what you're talking about with that urine makeup of truck. It definitely does have room underneath there where he could have put her down and then flipped it down and put the girls in. But remember, he doesn't have car seats in there.
Right. And he claims that they, well, if anyone asked, it would be Bella. Why are there no car seats? And I recall him telling Cato, oh, it's just this one time, it'll be okay. I don't believe him in that comment. I don't think she would have said that, because I think you would have heard that on the audio, on Nate's camera.
Yeah.
Another thing, Cece was a very loud child. Like, let's be honest. She was always screaming and very loud. I do think that he probably did something to subdue her so that she would not be as loud and hyper as she normally was, which we
Early
already
in the
know.
morning.
Yeah.
I've raised one daughter and I have a 10-year-old son. Vastly different individuals. My daughter was loud and just over boisterous, when she was younger. And then, over the years, it's kind of gone down. She's not as loud, in that way anymore. But now my 10-year-old, he took off, whoop. There was no slight increase. He went whoop. From the moment he started making noise as a baby. We're hoping that eventually it comes down, but Daddy keeps on enforcing the idea that of self-expression.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Let's get the kid a 7-piece drum set.
Yeah,
let's get an electric guitar and an amplifier.
See, mine was so easy because he was the first.
Yeah.
That I was like, let's have another. But now I kind of think I understand why he was so easy. He was just easygoing. I often wonder, I think that they were definitely out of it, but maybe they weren't totally gone. Maybe they were just hanging on because we will never know the truth, guys. That's the part that drives us all nuts, right? That's why we're still talking about this 8 years later. He said he smothered them at the house and then they woke back up. And he said to the FBI agents, I was so angry they woke up. And I was so angry on the drive out there that he said, I was so angry. I would have, if anything came in my way, I would have taken it out and it would have been justified because I was so angry.
Yeah, but that's like what, version 3?
Right. And you also have to remember he's behind bars. So there may be this part of him that wants to be like tough guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he also admitted that he tried to strangle the girls on a previous, date as well. And that, the first version was it was Shanann that killed the girls.
Right.
And that was version 1, then version 2, and then version 3, and version 4. I think we're probably up to, if for people who have communicated, maybe Lizzie has gotten version 6 now.
Well,
So,
according to the Daily Mail, they asked her, "What do you think about the crimes?" And she said, "Chris knows how I feel about that." So they obviously have talked about it. And she
yeah,
said it's
but
between Chris and God.
well, yeah, my righteous God would never allow someone like him, even if he repented for the rest of his life daily, he would never allow him in. But the devil, oh, the devil loves people like Chris.
Yeah.
All right. So what was the other one I went by? Oh,
Well, we
sorry.
don't know the truth because he's a liar. He's like a compulsive liar. So we don't know.
He's been a liar before he met Shanann. He was a
Yeah.
liar to get Shanann. He was a liar from the moment through their entire relationship. He was a liar when it came to the acts of what was going on. He was a liar to the channel 7 News in Denver and anybody else that talked to him about they were just gone. And he was a
Ghost
liar at the
town.
police department. He's a liar ever since. He has lied his entire life. And that's what people don't understand. Is back when he was an auto mechanic, well, we'll call it that. But he was a liar then.
Yeah.
And people are always like, well, why didn't anybody ever see these traits? It was right there in front of him, and nobody wanted to deal with it. His mother and father both, what's the best way to put this? They didn't condone it, but they knew about it, and they just kind of hoped that he would eventually, not outgrow it, but just stop.
Well, also, when you're a kid who's like kind of nerdy, not
Yeah.
going out, not, causing trouble, they had no reason to address the line,
Well,
right?
okay,
Like, he didn't have a criminal record. He wasn't wrecking cars. He wasn't causing trouble. He was just doing stupid lying. Like, he was. I'm trying not to laugh, Will, because I've got the IT up in here acting like they know the case and I know they don't. But he was lying about dumb things. Like he told his teacher he went to China and just crap like
yeah.
that it's just nonsensical.
Yeah, he also told another one of his teachers that his mother owned a Hallmark greeting store. Yeah, but there's something about that. I can understand from a juvenile standpoint.
Yeah.
Is they want to fit in. Maybe they want the eyes a focus upon them. They're like maybe they see somebody who has something that's they don't know. I'm never going to have that. I'm never going to have that Camaro or that new car on my sweet 16th birthday because we're just barely struggling to get by. I mean, his dad did everything he could, and mom worked, but it was never enough for Chris. So he started to invent, a background story, like going to China, his mom owning a Hallmark store. It made him bigger than, I mean, not huge, but it was a step up in his life,
Well,
as
also
far as anybody else.
Jamie was very popular. Like
Oh
they would, I remember the grandmother said that she'd pick him up from school and Jamie would take an hour to finish saying goodbye to all her friends. And
Yeah.
Chris would sit there in the car and wait because he was a dork and he didn't have any friends. He didn't make any real connections with anyone.
See, again, those symptoms, and signs of who Chris would become are there. it, I'm not saying that just because they have no friends or they only have one friend, it is a sign that they're going to kill their family later on. I'm just saying that the person who builds and festers that inside of them and then makes themselves bigger psychologically, from what I understand, I'm not the one getting the master's degree in psychology. That's my wife. And all these books behind me are on psychology. And that's all I do in my free time is read about serial killers in psychology. Yeah.
What a
Somebody needs
fun
a life.
hobby.
But anyways, but he these things, that he wasn't the athlete that he wanted to be. He couldn't get to this point in life. He couldn't be the star of this. He was an okay mechanic. Yeah, that's really what he should have done, because it was an individual task and reward system. Where later on, when he moved to Colorado, it didn't matter how great of a job he did. He got rewarded just like the other guys that he would see go out to the pit, and they would just lean up against the wall and do nothing. He got rewarded the same way. Work more, work harder, do a better job. Everybody else got the same thing as well. And I'm telling you, that had to really psychologically play into, what would later on happen, especially when it came to hooking up with Nicole.
Yeah.
The other employees couldn't do that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to highlight it. That is a whole show. I have wanted to do, though, Kitty Q, is because Will and I actually are big autism advocates. I've had this conversation with Will probably 100 times, where I'm like, I really hate that they're allowing in court now people to bring up the fact that they're on the spectrum, because now we've got Brian Koberger using it. It became a little bit of a defense for Chris when he started talking to Sherilyn Cadle. He was like, well, I never got properly evaluated, but I think I might be on the spectrum, right? And now we have a lot of criminals that, yes, are on the spectrum, but we have a lot of people on the spectrum living out in daily life who have never, ever done anything even close to this. So, I mean,
me and Jennifer both have children who are 100% on the spectrum.
Yes. And so it's a hard hit for me when I keep seeing Brian Koberger or, whoever it may be. It's not just Brian. There's been other criminals that come up and they say, well, I'm on the spectrum. And it's like, well, that's not an excuse. But we're seeing it more and more and more. And it'll be interesting to see if that starts changing, where you're not allowed to start bringing that up, because I feel like they're starting to use it as an excuse. And of course, it's pissing me off. I mean, I have a personal connection to it. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that Will and I's kids may go to, high school one day and someone might be like, oh, you're on the spectrum. So the serial killer down the street was, on the spectrum, and making that connection drives me nuts.
Well, I look at it this way, Jennifer, is we spent a lot of years in society, and those who were on the spectrum were first, listed as antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
Then they were wallflowers. Then they were the, this, and this. And then we started to actually look at, at the autism spectrum, and they tried to determine where the top is, where the bottom is.
Right.
Everything's on a spectrum. And we're in what I call growing pains. We're trying to figure out who has autism, who doesn't, how far does the disability actually go, and where is do we need to give support and everything else for those who are on the spectrum and who are the ones that are to the extreme, like the Rain Man, and please do not ever refer to somebody as having Asperger's syndrome. Asperger's is, the Nazi, who was into, he wanted to build a master race of whites.
Yeah.
He's the one who came up with the Asperger's syndrome label. It's autism, and it's a spectrum, in meaning that there are those who are nonverbal, never will be verbal, and they cannot survive in this world without day-to-day help with everything. To the kid who is at the lower end, who speaks perfectly, has complete control of his emotions, but cannot make the connections or eye contact with an individual. Maybe he has only 3 of those or 2 of those. So again, it's a spectrum from top to bottom. And there's no numbering system. Man, I hate that. Where's your kid on the spectrum? What number is he at? Oh, and we'll get back to this in a minute about Christopher Watts, but when it comes to the spectrum, and every kid that I know, and I volunteer with 2 different groups that help those who are adults, young adults, 18, 20, right in there. I volunteer with them and kids who are my son's age, 10. And we look at every one of them as not damaged. They are unique and they have barriers. I have a barrier. Jennifer has a barrier. Kiddiku has a barrier. Everybody has got a barrier to something in our lives. Maybe we don't pick up, social cues as fast as other people. Maybe it's I'm over obsessed with crime, and that's my barrier, because I just took 4 days off and was in the forest with no self coverage, nothing at all. You know what I did for the first day and a half? I thought about, damn, I wonder what Richard Ramirez would be doing right. I'm not kidding. That's what I did.
Yeah, and I am like texting, being like, I wonder if he has a signal. He needs to know about the Daily Mail article.
No, I go there and I turn my cell phone off, my tablet off, and I don't get them back out. The entire time I'm there. I do this to get away from society, from the constant noise of notifications and everything. And it's the most relaxing thing. If you can, anybody out there who can ever do it. Just turn everything off, the TV, the radio, everything, nothing electronic at all, and just sit in your own home. And the first 8 hours is going to be really hard if you're really addicted to this stuff. But you can find a way, and you can readjust your parameters. How often do you really want notifications? That 411 now or deadline crime really, is you'll rethink that bell icon really quick. And the other 197 channels that you subscribe to.
It's so true, Will. When you get into that mental state, when we go up where I tell you we go for our vacations, you get away from all the crap. And sometimes I'll tell myself, why do I even do this? Why do I even do this YouTube thing? Because it's so meaningless when you look at the bigger picture of uncutting from, phones and the internet and all of it. And you can really make your reality in your brain what you want it to be. It's all what you put in front of your face, Tanner Horner is another great example. Thank you so much, Scott, for bringing that up, because I knew there was another name out there of someone who is starting to try to use it as an excuse. But yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be honest here. I've used the term before, Will, because that was before, my son got his diagnosis. I only knew what I knew, right? You have to educate yourself to learn new things. And I remember when he got tested, I said to, the therapist, and this is another thing, guys, like when you do get a diagnosis, you're going to an actual psychiatrist, like who writes prescriptions and is going to do like a evaluation over time. It is not just like you walk in the clinic and they're like, yep, you've got autism. That's not how it works.
You can't go to your family practitioner for this.
Right. And so I said, but he's high functioning. So I said, he has Asperger's, right? And I got in the car and my husband immediately said to me, that was not well received. And I said, what do you mean? And he's like, they don't use that term anymore. And of course, after I did some more reading, I was like, oh my God, that is so embarrassing. However, if I didn't educate myself, I would have never known. And it's all a part of educating and learning,
Yeah. Believe me, there's the 1% out there of those who are on the spectrum who are like my son. They're the happiest individuals you'll ever meet in your entire life. He doesn't have a care in the world that is ever going to bother him, and probably never will. So on to the question. So why did Nicole Kessinger never get a polygraph test?
Because she wasn't being investigated. She was going. I feel like I've preached this for 2 weeks straight. I believe Nicole was going to be used as a character witness. And this was interesting because Scott Reich didn't agree with me on this. And I went back and forth with Scott. And I said, I will honestly disagree with you. I know you've been doing this longer than me, but I'm going to disagree with you. I said, Scott, you had a pregnant woman and 2 children missing. And I felt they were going to use Nicole Kessinger the way they were going to use Amber Fry. They were going to wire her up and use her to find out where the bodies were. That's what my thought process was from day one. When they found out about her, they were like, we need to get her on her side. So we're going to have an interview, not an interrogation. And right. I don't care if she was involved. We need to get her to tell us where those damn bodies are. And I'm sorry, I don't mean it like that, guys.
Right?
No,
yeah,
but like what she knows. Right. We are going to use her. We're going to do whatever she wants us to do. She destroyed her phone. I don't care. She pinged. I don't care. We need to find the bodies because the DA wants to look good. He doesn't want it to look like there's a psychopath running around killing families and pregnant women. And they were going to use Nicole Kessinger to find out where the bodies were. That's why I feel she was never hooked up to a polygraph, and probably some plea deal made before she walked into the doors. And that's why she brought her father in and she brought her dad to the park where there's no cameras and they were doing an interview. And that's just my 2 cents on that. Will, what is your thought on that?
I don't know. I really do. I've heard and I've listened to your part of your thoughts on if they were going to use her as a witness. I think at that point when they did the actual interview with her, I think they just wanted to get kind of an understanding of where the relationship with Chris and her, and if they were to later come up with anything at all that pointed to she was there, she asked for it, she something, they would have come back and interviewed her again and pressed her then at that point if she would have been reliable. But they already had dad in their back pocket.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to leave. They knew Chris knew where they were.
Oh man, the day he did that door porch interview, those reporters were texting, like cops they knew and things like that, being like, oh my God, did you watch the 5 o'clock? That dude is so guilty.
You watched it. I watched it. And the first things that popped in my mind was his body language and how he was crossing his arms, and he kept on darting his eyes, for the escape route with the reporter, not a cop. I know what.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
I mean, we both learned this in journalism school. We're like, oh boy, there's something wrong with this story. Immediately, that before they left, they were like, he's guilty. He killed him.
Yes, they were texting. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if, the MMJ who shot that footage, called up to the sheriff's office and was like, hey, you guys might want to come over to the station and watch this. We're going to ingest some video and you might want to watch it.
Yeah.
Before it even runs on air, you might want to come over and get a copy of this. Yes, she controlled the whole narrative of it. But my thought was, thought always was that they were going to use her in the way that they were going to use Amber Fry. They were going to be like, okay, we know you were in a relationship with him. Can you get him to tell us where the bodies are?
Yeah. When it came to the interview, though, they allowed her. It's like, give her enough rope and see if she'll hang herself.
That too.
Yeah. So they wanted her to do that. They wanted her to think that she was in control, just like they wanted her dad to think that he was controlling the narrative afterwards. So
yeah. And I think I don't, and I've had this conversation with the attorney that I do my show with on Saturdays. There's never going to be any accountability for her unless Chris puts it on her. And it's not just writing these letters, guys. Someone, a lot of people are getting really excited because Kelly with What's the Obsession released this letter where he has said, and there's a phone call where he said, she gave me the oxycodone. And we all know what he did with that. It doesn't matter if he's writing people. He needs to tell a lawyer. He needs to file an actual appeal and say someone else was involved. You don't just run your mouth to random people and then the investigator and the DA are going to come run to you and be like, yeah, let's put up $8 million and start digging into this case. He needs to actually do something if it were to go anywhere, because all these attorneys have said, it's cost a lot of money. You got to bring back the CBI. You have to bring back Dave Baumhover, who's retired and probably doesn't want to talk about this. I think he retired for a reason. I've always had a hunch that he retired because the way the case was handled.
I think it was more burnout.
That too, and PTSD for sure.
Oh yeah, he did a terrific job in all the years that he was there.
Yeah. If you're gonna go out, I gotta get my ice pack in order. Okay. NK wanted him to take pictures of the oil site after the fact to prove he did it and sent it to her. Why have I ignored this? I'll tell you why I ignore it. Talking about it does nothing. Just like I said, you have to have solid proof. You have to have evidence to take it to trial. It can't just be a photograph or a cell phone ping. I mean, it would need to be a text message between the two of them that said, hey, I'll help you clean up the bodies. Or, Chris, did you do it yet? Is it done? And if she was involved, she was very slick at not slipping up.
And remember, Nicole Kesson deleted her phone. and pictures from her.
Say that again, Will, because it cut out for a second.
Nicole considered the information from her cell phone, but never did. So she was trying to hide the facts of what they were talking about in the pictures and everything else that they traded back and forth. She tried to delete that information from her cell phone. Chris never did.
Yeah.
At the same time, the police department was
Thanks. Where did Will go? Oh, I think he went in and out. Thank you. I think the IT guy has been drinking. Okay, so Will will come back in. I'm gonna have a little cheese snack. We call my husband the IT guy. I know Will will come back here in a moment. But y'all, also, I will not deny the whole Metallica lyrics. What is the song called? While we wait for Will, let's bring it up. It's Metallica. Battery, right? Lyrics? Okay. Let's bring it up while I wait for him. Okay. Share screen. All right, let's take a look at these lyrics, guys. I'm going to text Will real quick and be like, you coming back? Just so I know. Make sure his phone didn't die or something. Okay. Let's take a look at these lyrics. I got too many windows open. Yes, Gone Girl. Thank you so much for gifting memberships. That was so kind of you. You didn't have to do that. That was so nice of you. I appreciate that. Okay. Stand by, guys. I'm trying to get the lyrics to come up while we wait for Will to come back. My genius plan did not work as I thought. Oh, that's because maybe I got to take this down. Add to the stage, add to the stage. I need a new laptop like yesterday. It's not even funny anymore. Okay. Let's take a look at these. Didn't he play it? I don't know, Scott. I can't prove it, but I know that there was a text message. Yep. We need, yes, IT, man, we need help. Will's gone. And while we wait for Will, let's take a look at there was some text message between them, and he said, or she said, I challenge you to look up the lyrics of Battery. And this is what like everyone is hung up on. Okay. Smashing through the boundaries, lunacy has found me, cannot stop the battery. Pounding out aggression turns into obsession, cannot kill the battery, cannot kill the family. Battery is found in me. Battery, battery. Yeah, I figured he lost power. Let me know if you want me to wait for you, or we can do the rest of the questions next time. You let me know. Okay, he's rebooting. So, what are your thoughts, guys, on the lyrics? I don't know. I think it's just a song, but I think it's a really weird thing to text, right? In the morning. Like, that's the first thing you thought of to text him, is just really bizarre to me. Let's also take a look at just some of these love notes and things that the two of them had. It's so small, it's hard for me to even read it. But here's just one of the notes that he wrote, Nicole. And we know that Chris had a habit of having to look up things to write in the cards, the love letters and things, because he couldn't think for himself. That's just how he was. Yes, definitely creepy lyrics. Did the police question NK about it? About the song batteries? I don't believe they did. I believe when they went back out there for the 4-hour interrogation after he had been sentenced, they did ask him, what was the song about? I believe Tammy Lee said, why did you text about the lyrics to that Metallica song? And he just kind of downplayed it and threw it back on her and was like, oh, well, she challenged me to look up the lyrics, and that was kind of his spiel with that. He downplayed it. But is it not very bizarre? Okay, number one, this song. Also, remember, he was a huge Metallica fan. Number two, he took a picture of the sunflowers in the oil field after he did what he did. Is like the most chilling, haunting thing I can ever imagine in my life. And yeah, here's just a picture of some sunflowers after I just took out my whole family. What? But then again, he could just be sharing a sunflower picture because she liked sunflowers. I can't tell you why. But yes, it's very haunting, very disturbing. And this is our most, no, that's not even our most recent mugshot of him. I don't think I have the most recent mugshot of him, but this is what he looked like. Tammy Lee, I'm going to bring your comment down, Scott, so I can bring this up. This is the picture that Tammy Lee took herself when she went to go interview him. She said to him, gosh, so different now. Can I take a picture? And he says yes, which I thought was a little bizarre, right? Because I'm like, Will texts me government 3 minutes, and then he retypes give me 3 minutes. Said, oh, that's funny. No worries. So he had a power outage of some sort. I don't know if the battery died or he had some type of power outage, but he'll be with us in a second, and we'll definitely finish off these questions. But let's take a look at, this was 2019. This is let's see. Will's back. Can't tell yet the exact date on this. I think it was pretty recent. I believe it was probably 2019, if not 2018. If not 2018, it was 2017, because look at how big Celeste is. she's kind of grown a little bit. So, Will, I pulled up while you were gone the lyrics of Battery, and we just kind of looked at those.
His favorite Metallica
while
song.
You had your power. Yeah. And they asked if that was ever asked to Nicole Kessinger or Chris. I don't recall it being asked. I do remember in the 4-hour CBI interview, it was brought up, but at that point, Chris was already sentenced. It was done. It was a done deal. It was over. Yeah, he does. He doesn't look the way he used to look. I know that. I can tell you that.
He's gotten fat.
Yeah, he's eating honey buns and ho-hos and Twinkies and ding dongs and all the goodies.
Last picture I saw of Chris Watts was for his prison ID, and he's been shaving his head, and he's definitely put on a lot more weight since the CBI was there last time.
He's not quite 400 pounds, but he's not looking at his macros. I'll tell you that. He's not paying attention to his macros anymore. Will, have you ever had a theory on the whole, the picture of the sunflower in the lyrics?
Which pictures?
Remember when he texted her some pictures when he was out there on the 13th, he sent her a picture of sunflowers from the oil field. It didn't say anything. He just sent
he don't look like that no more.
No, he does not. He isn't thriving. He's not thriving anymore.
No, he's definitely not. No. I'd have to actually sit down and look at the pictures itself.
He just looks like a middle-aged man. He's got like a dad bod now,
There's nothing wrong with a dad bod.
No, there's
I'm rocking that hard. But I just haven't killed my family.
Right? I mean, what would you rather have?
I'd rather have the family.
Right. The missing 45 minutes. Do you think he killed her when she came to the door or later in bed?
No, he definitely killed her when she was in the bedroom because the certain personal items were there, the watch and stuff like that were in the bedroom. But yeah, I understand if the 45 minutes is from the time that her friend, Nicole dropped her off, and then when his truck, activity starts, there's a 45-minute gap there. So
yeah,
I think she got into bed and she was defenseless, and he jumped on her over the top of the covers, and it was so much easier to strangle her in bed and then wrap her up in the bed sheet.
It's not enough evidence. There's too many little pieces, but there's not solid evidence. Like, my co-host on Saturday said, you got to have solid evidence when you're going to put someone on the stand for the same charges as Chris. And that's a death penalty case. We are talking death penalty, guys. And they're not going to try a case on a ping of a cell phone. No way. Not a chance. And I know that pisses people off, but that is kind of just what John is telling us he's experienced in his career. He told me the system isn't fair sometimes. It tries to be, but it's not always. And sadly, that's true.
The system we have is not perfect, but it's the best that we have, and it's never going to get better unless people put people in charge who can change it for the better. But we keep on going down the same stupid path that we have been doing for over 100 years, is putting people in place because they are part of our political party, or they talk big on one aspect of our lives that we want to see improved,
Yeah.
instead of like, hey, look, we really need Department of Justice reform. We need the FBI, the CIA. We need these people to be nonpartisan and doesn't and not appointed by a president who wants to go after one party or the other. We need these things at the top to, and then we need reform when it comes to the justice system at the third branch when it comes to judicial. The Supreme Court should never, ever be at anyone. I don't care what political party you are. You should never want the Supreme Court to say, you know what, we vote more to this person than anyone else. And we're going to ignore what the hell constitutional law says on this side, where it's going to rule this way instead because the person in office says we should rule that way. Because
Yeah.
that trickles down from there to the lower courts, to the lower courts, to the courts in your system, to the school boards and everything else around you. You got to make real change, and starts at the bottom and works its way up.
Yeah.
But the United States of America is even as flawed as our justice system is, and the problems that we have with it right now, at least we have that. Remember, a lot of nations around this world do not have anything even remotely as open and as just as ours.
That's true. I agree with you on this, Will. I don't think there was even a confrontation. I don't think there was a conversation. I think he is a absolute coward. And
Yep.
like you said, he wrapped her up in a sheet and she had no idea. I don't even know if she knew it was him, to be honest with you.
It's so much easier to, all he had to do was just throw his legs over the top of her arms so she couldn't raise her arms in defense. That's why she doesn't have any defensive wounds.
Yeah.
They're not noted in the autopsy at all. And he pinned her down with his weight on her shoulders and her arms. And then he did what he did. And then the top sheet off of the bed is what he wrapped her up in, and that's what he buried her in.
And then the dumbass left it out in the field. Like, it just goes to show how after it was all done, he didn't have a plan. You know what I mean? For someone who said he's been thinking about this and fantasizing about it and thinking about it for weeks and weeks, he told Sherilyn Cadle. And then to just leave the sheet out there, and I mean, just all of it just shows the guy had no plan whatsoever.
Trust me, I live in the desert, the same kind of climate zone as, where he buried Shanann. Sagebrush, semi-desert kind of area is Colorado, like that. But I'm in eastern Washington. And if you've never taken a shovel and tried to dig a hole in dry sand, you don't know how difficult that is.
Yeah.
Another, shovel hole or more falls in. And you have to dig a hole big enough and deep enough to try to put her in. That is something he definitely did not think.
I agree with you're frozen, Will. I'm going to give you a second to unfreeze.
And back, and she's there, and she's back.
Wait, hold on. I'll bring you out. I'll bring you back up.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay, you're spinning, you're spinning. Wait, come back. He'll be back. He'll come in and out. I also agree with you, Scott, because when Frank Rusick said, hey, he never pulls his truck in and out of the garage like that. Bingo. They knew something was wrong. They knew something was off. So I 100% agree with you. There was also a point the next day where they were following Chris and he was, yeah, it is. It does get funny. It gets you mad though when you're like doing one of these and it freezes though. Like last Saturday, I think a couple of you were in there. I was pissed. I was like, I need a new laptop. This is pissing me off. So yeah, any donations you guys make to the channel go to equipment so we can do this operation because StreamYard alone is $400. So that's not even editing and all the other works. So I forgot to put our banner up. Forgot to do that. I'm assuming Will's coming back, but let me check out the next question. Yes, please hit the like button. It helps us out. It pushes us out into the algorithm and we appreciate it. Even those little hearts are helpful. All right. Why did Chris blame Shanann for killing the girls in the first interview, then change it later if he was innocent? My thought on this is he got the idea from Tammy Lee that, remember when Tammy Lee said, chicks are crazy, man. Did she do something to them? And then you had to do something to Shanann? And he kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. Can I just talk to my dad? And then he got himself a good 10 seconds to get his brain together and is like, crap, they know I did this. So what am I going to do? And then he thought, well, I'll just go with what she said. And I'm going to say that she hurt the girls. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run with that. And then he realized that the evidence was going to show what really happened. And I think that's why he changed his story back. I'm just texting him real quick, just saying, are you coming back? Or should I continue on? Yes, she planted that seed and he ran with it. He totally ran with it. Okay. So Will's got a power outage issue, guys. So I will I'll continue here. Was it premeditated or a crime of passion, like Chris said it was? And was it only over debt? Now, this is a good question I would want Will to answer with me. So here's the premeditation. Absolutely. He admitted he was thinking about this, plotting it for weeks. So there's no doubt in my mind that he was planning this. He just didn't plan it meticulously like most serial killers do or psychopaths do. I don't believe it was only over debt. I think debt was a factor, but I think Nicole Kessinger was the other factor. He was getting this new attention. He wanted a new life. And just like Coder said, to get the new life, you have to get rid of the old life. But why not just get a divorce, right? I mean, that's what most people do. Thank you, Scott. That's so kind of you. We will put that towards our equipment to get this done. We'll put that towards StreamYard for sure. What do you guys think? Kitty Q, you say it is premeditated? Agree. Chris does what women tell him to do. So Tammy Lee's comment was a raft he left on to try to save himself. That's a great way to explain it. He was drowning and he needed to just jump on it. He was in a panic. And I think him bringing his dad into the room gave him like 10 seconds to like, take a deep breath and decide, where am I going with this? What am I going to do with this? So that's where I think he came up with that idea. I'll continue to the next question. And what we can do is if Will pops back on, we'll go back and then we'll ask him what his thoughts are. Okay. Why didn't Celeste have defensive wounds like Bella did? I believe that Chris gives nuggets of truth. And I believe that he did smother them with the pillows at the house. Before, I think he waited for Shanann to go to sleep a little bit. And while she was asleep, he went into their rooms, did the smothering, came back into the bedroom, and then did what he did to Shanann. And then they woke up. I think Celeste was smaller. He had more control in doing what he did and was able to cause almost like a brain damage to her where she was almost like out of it. Like she wasn't really there, but she was breathing and alert, but she just mentally wasn't there. So she wouldn't fight. She wouldn't put up a fight. She would have been tired. She would have been drowsy. But I feel like Bella was a little bigger and she did put up a little bit of a fight. But also you have to remember it's her dad and she trusted him wholeheartedly. And maybe that, I don't know, maybe Celeste was just even young enough to think he's just playing around. You know, he's not going to really hurt me. He's not going to do anything. Also, she's so young that maybe she didn't know how to defend herself. So that's a possibility too. You guys feel free to chime in here. Okay. Was Chris Watts really quiet, gentle, and hands-on, or a true sociopath? It's so hard. It's hard because all accounts from all former coworkers, friends, all of it, they all say he was so kind, quiet, gentle. But it takes a true sociopath to do something of that extreme. So I'm going to go with he's a true sociopath. That is another thing I'm working on, is trying to get an expert psychiatrist to come on the channel and kind of explain to us. I want to talk about the difference between sociopath, psychopath, narcissist. And we hear those words thrown around a lot, right? But what is the true definition and how is it defined? One channel, one story that I really, really want to cover with Will is the one of Paris Bennett. He is a 15-year-old who took out his sister just because he was angry at his mom. And he's been serving most of his sentence locked up. And he will be paroled out at some point in his life. But he did an interview with Piers Morgan and was explaining that he truly has no feelings inside. So Good point, Will. He's back. But oh my gosh, the power is really out.
Yeah, I'm on my emergency light.
Oh man. Um,
all my studio lights. I'm waiting for the power to come on. I'm hooked up to my cell phone tethering right now.
Oh my God.
But I don't know. Well, it is 8:20 p.m. right now, and it is just under 100 degrees out.
Well, you make the call. We could either pick this up or we could continue. It's totally your call.
As much as I would love to sit and talk about Christopher Watts, for another weekend, I think I'm pretty sick of him.
Agreed.
We have other killers, other monsters.
We do. Okay, so I'll let you answer these two questions just because I've already answered them. Premeditated, or was it a crime of passion? And I know you've covered this before, that it wasn't just the debt. So you give us your breakdown on that.
Quickly, was it premeditated or was it passion? Answer that part of it, and then I'll answer was it just over debt? No, it wasn't premeditated. It was not that the homicides themselves were not premeditated. The thought of escaping his life and escaping to restart his life, and Nicole Kessinger was trying to help him, and on the legal side, she said in her own interview, she said she wanted to help him transition to a life without Shanann and raising the girls and getting them an apartment and stuff like that. He thought about that. That was a premeditated. But the murder of Shanann and the girls, I do not believe at all was premeditated. But he really looked at everything was internal. The world was against him. And he was never going to succeed or move forward if the family was being tortured like him. In his mind, now this is Chris's mind, not yours, not the court of public opinion, but he really thought that they were being tormented and persecuted like him. Sorry, Jennifer. Where's our tech support? Slap her on the back. But anyways, was it all over debt? No, it was the excitement of a new beginning with Nicole. It was the debts. It was, again, fulfilling the lies that he had already been telling everybody his entire life, and the lies that he had been telling, everyone in and around him, that it wasn't his fault, it was somebody else's fault. All those things played into, was it debt, passion, or premeditated? Premeditated, yeah, he definitely wanted to leave. He wanted out. But the only thing he could think of and focus on was his anger, his rage, and how disappointed it was and what it was going to look like for his family as him as a failure.
Yeah, I'm good. I started choking.
Well, don't do that.
I know. You do that before?
No, that's why never. My entire life, I've never done that. Yeah.
That's why I have you to carry on.
I smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day. I cough like a goddamn chimney.
I love Muffy. He's like, you okay, girl? Like, she knew something was wrong. I had to go off camera. Oh, gosh. All right,
so next one. Why did Celeste have defensive wounds and wounds like Bella did? Why didn't? All right, so this plays a lot into the family annihilator. They feel and when it comes to family annihilators, 99% of them, they end up being the annihilator themselves is the last victim. But when it comes to children, or external, like maybe a mother-in-law, father-in-law, or nieces, nephews, or anybody else who lives in the immediate household. They have to live in the immediate household. They can't live in North Carolina or Washington State. They have to live there and be there in the situation and be persecuted like the individual, like Chris Watts. They have an emotional connection to one child over the other, or one niece, nephew, whoever. If they're minor children in the situation, they have a connection, and they're always the last one to die. Not that they think about, oh my God, I'm torturing them by they're watching the others die. They feel like they're prolonging their torture because they feel that torture within themselves.
I thought
Now,
we discussed, and maybe it wasn't you, Will, who told me the one that they like.
Paramedic EMT, are you okay now?
I'm good.
Okay.
there's our tech support. I knew our tech support would show up.
Yeah. Yeah, tech support probably could hear me from up there. What was I saying? Was it you who told me, or someone else who told me, that he was always going to take out the one he was closest to because he had to finish it out first?
That was me.
Okay.
And in case anybody is ever interested and really wants to read about family annihilators or familial side, New Queensland University in Australia has done the largest study of familial side family annihilators that has ever been done anywhere. Nobody actually thought about studying these individuals as a whole. Again, 99%. You see them in the news as murder, suicide, and house burned down, and 3 kids died in it as well. And then later on, they don't ever do an update like the 3 kids were strangled to death, and then the house burned down, and then murder, suicide. He killed the wife and then himself. All right, and it's always suicide is the ending solution, and this is why we know that Christopher Watts, at some point, he may not want to ever tell anybody about it, but he always was, his life was the end. He was the last person. Was he going to, if he survived this, was he going to kill Nicole Kessinger later on? Guarantee it. If he would have lived through this in a short order afterwards, if he would have lived through this, if he could have gotten to her, she would have died next. If he couldn't get to her next, Robert, his closest co-worker, was going to die first. It was always going to be one of those two. He may have been, putting his little, dinky winky, you can't see my finger, but it's my pinky finger. His little dinky winky. He might have been putting his dinky winky into Nicole Kessinger, but she was going to be on that list. If it had been a day, a month, a year, 5 years, somewhere along the line, she was going to be the next one. And so was the close friend from work, Robert. He's gone by like multiple different names over the years, but it's the same guy. If anybody knows the Andarko, crew at all that he worked with.
Yeah.
Michigan family.
We had another one of these just like this.
It happens. It happens
of course,
a lot more.
Everyone I knew back home sent this to me.
And
yes, Will, you're so right. It happens all the time. We have a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 11, a 5-year-old, and 2 girls that were both 11. 4 of the children were biological. 2 were adopted.
Yeah.
And this was honestly, I read a little bit of the report, and just as nasty as the Watts case. But why are we not hearing a lot about it? I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know what it is about the Watts case, but this is a lot more common. I mean, look, we're watching the trial right now of Lindsay Clancy.
Right.
I mean, it's
right.
Exactly.
It's the reverse. And
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I'm feeling bad for her. I haven't watched all of the trial.
Well,
Um,
you have to watch. Scott Reich put out an update today about bad day for her today.
yeah, I only watched the one part where he said bad day. So I'm very curious to watch the rest of it. I think why I'm feeling for her is because she did try to get help for her mental health. Um, and you don't, and Scott brought up a really great point during our interview. He said he did the drive from the house out to Anadarko, and there were several hospitals and fire departments that he could have stopped at along the way and said, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing something really bad. I want you to take my
Four,
kids from me."
four different places. He could have dropped off the girls, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Four. On the
Do
way to
you?
where he ended up putting Shannon in the shallow grave and
Yeah.
the girls in the oil tanks. And here's the part that that nobody and I still cannot wrap my head around. For in order to put the girls in the oil tank, there are 11 nuts on the top of the tank that he had to
Yeah.
take off in order to get Bella in there. Why would he put and do that? Take all 11 nuts off, open up the hatch, put her in there, and then go kill
To the other one.
Celeste, and then take 11 more off. He did that twice.
Do we know if the nuts were bolted or not?
Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking from firsthand experience. Not that I put my own kids in an oil tank. I worked in the chemical industry for damn near 4 years. I know those type of tanks so well. I mean forward, backwards, and I know the inspections. I've done everything from that side of it to working in a chemical factory where I actually put chemicals in there like they did with oil. I know those containment areas around it and how they're built, everything. I've done it all. Put the tanks in, built the containment vessel around it. I know everything about that. And I could not, for the life of me, imagine what that would have been like with the day they had to go get the two girls out of the separate tanks. Because it's not one individual. They unbolt the side after they pump everything out. It's a buddy system. You don't let one go in without the other, and you're tied to each other. Because if one is overcome by a chemical vapor, you have to be able to pull the other one back out. And there's someone always tied to you, behind you, a third one, but it's farther back. And that had to be absolutely horrific. Now imagine they didn't send to get the girls back out of those tanks. They didn't just send oil workers in there who are used to these vapors and all this. It had to be people from the state, from the coroner's office, somebody forensically who could look around for anything, stuffed animals.
Yep.
We know that. They had to collect anything and everything that is drained down to a point where they can get into the tank, which is about 11 inches or so of crude oil. They had to pump it down to because there's the bottom of the tank and there's the bottom part like this where the hatch is. It's actually a big giant circle, but yet there's only about 11 inches from there to the bottom of the tank. And that's how far they pumped it down to. And then they said, okay, now we can go in. The vapors inside of that tank, and that's why there are multiple vents on the top and out. They go up, and then they make a 90. Those are for releasing the vapors off of oil or from pesticides, or whatever you might put in them. And they're like a double check system. In case one fails, there's always going to be a second one. Otherwise, boom! Nobody wants that shit. Otherwise we'd have oil tanks and fertilizer tanks all over America, exploding. Now, this is completely separate when it comes to anhydrous ammonia. You don't have any vents off the top because anhydrous ammonia goes up and then liquefied versions at the bottom, but like natural gas. But
yeah, and you also have to think it wasn't just about retrieval of the bodies. They had to recover evidence too because they were going to trial. They did not know if this guy was going to give them a confession. Every piece of anything out there
initially, everything had to be documented.
Photographed, picked up, all of it, any of it, because they wanted to nail him on this.
Well, it's like the gravesite of Shanann. There were, besides the sheet in the damn sagebrush, I think it was 48 photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to document everything about that. They documented him with the day he showed up when Nicole was at the house, and he took that long delay going from work to there. They documented every aspect of that. How long did it take him to go from when they called him until he showed up at the house, and she was worried, and all that. They documented
everything. Will, didn't he take a crap out there? I never saw it in the Discovery, but people say it's in the Discovery.
Yeah, we don't know if it was actually Chris, but
okay.
That is actually pretty common because think about how far the bathroom is from the location to town. Yeah, that happens a lot. I've got a lot of buddies who worked in the oil industry, and the chemical industry as well, and locations like that. Yeah, you gotta go, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you gonna do? You can't go back in your pickup truck and then take the 12-mile drive back into town to, the AM PM. So
there was speculation that there was vomit. There was rumor that maybe it was Bella because there was speculation that he made Bella climb up the steps herself. And that she threw up Benadryl or something. We're never, ever going to really know what's out there.
I can give you credence to part of that. They did find skin and something else on the last part of the walkway. Now, that could have been from anyone. I don't know if they ever were able to associate that with Bella or Celeste, because the walkway it's metal staircases. If you've never seen industrial stairs before, it's all made out of steel and it's made so it's a non-slip porous area. So you're never going to slip. Doesn't matter what kind. You could be wearing cowboy boots, with no traction at all. You'd still get traction on these kind of staircases. But they did find like skin cells or something on the top area, and that could have been from anything from him setting the girls down, by the tanks while he unbolted them, or it could have been a co-worker. But that's where the speculation comes in, is because that's in the report about that are human cells or skin cells or something like that, and people extrapolated that to vomit or somebody was alive when they got up there, but unproven, and we'll never know because all of that evidence has been long gone.
Oh, actually, fun fact for you.
Uh-oh.
I asked Scott Reich about that. He believes the evidence is still intact, Will, because he hasn't filed the 35C. He said
Scott actually might be right there. And but in a normal circumstances, in a case where somebody's taken a plea agreement like Chris did, it would not be around. They would have destroyed it years ago. But
Scott told me, because I had to ask him about it. I go, do you think there's a file of evidence, and like, you know, the other attorney I had on gave a really great description of how evidence is collected and put in a locker system. It's not like the old school, like, you know, remember the brown containers you would like take to your office when you move? It's not
File
like that.
box or a brown
Yes.
paper bag. It's not anywhere near that anymore. We've learned from previous mistakes. But I mean, back to what Scott said. I for the kind of law that Scott practices in the state of Colorado, I would probably if he said that it's still around, I would have to believe that, because he's not taking on DUI cases. He's a criminal defense lawyer. So
yeah. Here's a look at Survey 319, guys, just to take a look at how many damn steps to climb. And there's the walkway that Will is talking about.
Yeah.
Very long walkway. It's exhausting just looking at
the DNA or skin cells or whatever was collected. So where you see the two tanks, it was like almost in the middle area. But from what I remember, I think it was more close to the left tank, where he put Bella in the left and Cece in the right.
God, just.
But I mean, don't hold me to that. I mean, I would have to actually.
You're going to be best at explaining this because of your wife's background in studying what she studies. Is Chris Watts really quiet, gentle, and hands-on, or is he a true sociopath?
No, Chris would. First off, everybody likes to throw away around the term, the names, sociopath, psychopath.
Yeah.
Chris has never been formally diagnosed with any of them. Chris refuses to sit down and actually speak with anyone who actually can clinically diagnose him as either a sociopath or psychopath. So first off, we have to take that out of it. Is Chris really quiet, gentle, and hands-on? That is a description that a lot of people who knew the family, and they saw them, the neighbors and stuff like that, and then they interacted or they saw him around. Even the neighbor, both of the neighbors, Nate and Betty, both said that he seemed like a very tentative father, gentle, very kind individual, quiet, and would do anything. And now we know that from prison as well.
Yes.
All the reports from prison is he will do anything and everything for other inmates. So I guess, maybe that's part of his psychopathy. But again, I cannot, say if he is truly a sociopath or psychopath. By his behavior, he checks more of the boxes off as a psychopath than a sociopath.
That's interesting. Yeah, while you were gone, I said I've been trying to work on getting a professional to come on the show, and I want to talk about the common ones thrown around, just like you said. Narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, all these words that people throw around, and I want to go through each one individually and talk about how a person is actually diagnosed. I know we've done a little bit of that, but I would really love to get someone as qualified as your wife, or someone who does this medically, forensically.
We would have to do that on a separate channel someplace.
Yeah,
because my wife is not very PC.
I don't even know what other channels you can do it on besides YouTube. But
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, she's not PC. I mean, if anybody's ever seen my wife's gaming channel, there's more F-bombs that are dropped in a 2-minute period than anyone should ever say in their entire lifetime.
I love that. It reminds me of that commercial, if you've ever seen the gaming mom who's like giving her kids snacks, and they're like, you're the mom that's nicknamed blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard because I mean, I'm going to tell you, even my interview with Dylan Tolman, he's like, he is such a nice guy. He was so kind. He's smart. You know, he's saying oh, we got power. We got power. He was saying all these really great things about Chris. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, Dylan, he's got you fooled. He's got you wrapped around his finger. And he's like, well, you just have to know him. You have to experience it. And I'm like, I get it. But he's got you wrapped around his finger.
In case the power goes out again, I want to say one thing about Dylan Tallman is I don't believe 100% of what he had to say about.
I understand.
I do definitely think that that Dylan was definitely using his position and knowledge of the prison system over Chris. And it wasn't so much that Chris was just like, yeah, let me just give you or buy you whatever you want. Now, I do believe Chris did that or is doing that now to buy friends or buy influence or protection. I 100% believe that. Now, in his housing unit, he's nowhere near general population, but he is with other people in his housing unit that are murderers, cold-blooded, sadistic, individuals. But Tallman, he was like, if you had a scale between 1 and 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the absolute worst. Chris is probably like a 4, and Tallman's probably like a 2.
And the reason Dylan was in the same area as Chris is he admittedly told me he has some mental health issues.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we need to keep that in consideration too. I was interviewing someone who admittedly has some health issues. So
I know somebody else who's interviewed him for his channel, and he got the same grasp on Dylan as I did. From listening to you in your conversation with him, and others. So,
and also, like, I know that Dylan, is gonna maybe embellish some things too, right? He wrote a book. He wants to sell damn books. I mean, he even told me, do you want me to go back out on the streets and sell drugs, or do you want me to be an author? I said, I'd rather you be an author.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, me too. I said, I get where you're going.
But that didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Dylan has pending charges.
Yeah. No, it is hard to believe. I think it is going to happen for him. Is it true that detectives spoke with Chris Watts and his father off camera about the crimes of his murder? I don't think it was ever off camera, but I do think that some of the police interview was edited. So when people do records requests like Will and I, that we can't see all of it.
Right.
But I don't think anything was off camera.
Well, I know what this person's probably referring to is not as Chris and Dad together, but individually. I think that's what they're trying to get to. And yes,
are they talking about the lawyer?
When they brought Dad in, they obviously had a conversation to get him there, and then they had a conversation.
Oh, yes.
And same thing with Chris. I don't think that this individual meant it's like, hey, we have a whole conversation, an hour and a half, and we just didn't turn the cameras or recorders on, or anything like that. Yeah. I think it was like they're taking the questions like it's 2 different situations, but yes.
Right.
But it was small.
I'm sure they sat down with Ronnie and they were like, and if anyone did it, I would think it would be Tammy Lee. It would be a female, and they would be like, we don't know where your granddaughters are. We need you to go in there and find out. And because he loved his granddaughters, he went in there and he started
one of the unsung heroes of the entire thing. Tammy.
Agreed. And yeah, a lot of people criticize him, but when I look at those videos, I see a grandfather that really loved his grandchildren. And John Reif, the attorney who joins me on Saturday, said something very powerful. Ronnie was the best prosecutor that they had.
Oh yeah.
I
Definitely.
mean, the way he asked the questions, he asked Chris to speak up. You know what I mean? Like, I can't hear you. Speak up a little bit. I can't hear you. What happened? And then did you notice how Ronnie would repeat what Chris would say?
Yep.
She did it. She
You
smothered
had
them?
your good cop, you had your bad cop, and then you had your Ronnie.
Yep.
And Ronnie was, he could ask the questions that neither the good cop or the bad cop could ask. They
Yep.
couldn't ask him to speak up. They couldn't ask him to explain, the story more in detail. I'm sorry. What did you say? Speak up.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ronnie had a bad heart on him at all. I think Ronnie was just trying to make sure that that they could hear, and that he expressed himself. Did Ronnie ever come into that room and think to himself, my son killed his wife and his two daughters and his unborn son? I don't think that there was a second in Ronnie's mind at all. Well, maybe a second on the flight there, but damn, that had to be hard. I try to put myself as like, ask
Right.
AJ. I mean, how do you put yourself as a father in that situation? Thank God our little guys are young, but I mean,
Well, I
10
mean,
years from now.
it's also the fact that Ronnie wanted to know where those little girls were. Like,
Yeah,
you know what
of
I
course
mean?
he did.
He loved them. He wanted to know where they were. And he, I think, truly in his heart thought that maybe Shanann did have something to do with it until later on, when the other confessions came out. But Ronnie did tell Coder, I want to hire a lawyer. I don't want a public defender after
Yeah.
Chris confessed. He did. So to
Yeah.
this comment here, I do want you to know, the problem is I don't think they could afford it. And that's something Scott Reich, gave me some insight on, because I said,
Oh, yeah.
why did we not see him, fight the charges and lawyer up? And he said they probably couldn't afford it. And he's like, we're talking in the millions to defend someone's property.
He definitely could have protected his rights by just saying,
Sure.
I don't wish to speak, I want a lawyer. And they would have given him a public defender. One the state would have picked up the tab. But yeah, the Watts family definitely, they're not rich.
Right.
The Roos checks, family, a little bit better off, but not rich either. I mean, but Jesus, yeah, he could have stopped the entire thing right then and there. As soon as his dad walked in the room and sat down in a chair next to him, and then pulled him and scooted forward to him, Chris could have just shut his damn mouth. And I kind of wish, at a lot of points, he would have done that, because we would have gotten a lot more information about really what happened with the dynamic with Nicole Kessinger. We would have found out more about the work. We would have found out more about the family life, the debts, all that. And I wouldn't have had him done, so much work over the years, documenting so much of this. So I kind of wish at some points, it's like, why didn't you ask for a lawyer?
Well, that's what, Scott Reich is like, what a dumbass. Like he said, he just kept seeing him like on the news, like, nah, 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 nah. And it's just that stupid Chris really thought he would get away with it. And then I also think in Ronnie's heart, I don't think Ronnie thought it was possible. And I honest to God think that they're not so much Ronnie, but I do think the family is in a little denial still that it all happened. When trauma like that happens, you don't process it in a year.
No.
you don't. It takes a long time. I don't know if they've even processed it. I can't. I'm not a medical professional.
30 years ago, my friend was murdered. I'm still trying to process it.
Yeah.
30 years. And to find out after 24 years, he got out of prison, and another one of mine and my wife's friends was pen paling him and then married him immediately after he got out of prison. She's not just some rando. She was a friend of all of us. She was all part of our group, and she knew our friend who was murdered, and she just kept her mouth shut for almost 5 years. That she was communicating with them, and it's just like another knife in the back.
Yeah.
But 30 years later, I'm still trying to figure out why. Well, I mean, and Ronnie, and the Watts family. I know the Ruscheks definitely. Like you could have left her. You could have divorced her. You could have walked away. You could have been a deadbeat dad. The list of options are so far in between. But you can't. That's what it never is going to make sense to anybody. Why he went down that road.
Oh, was that our last slide? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say
no, we have to be
oh no, God, no. I read Ronnie's statement last week just because I felt not Ronnie, I'm sorry. Frank's statement that he posted on Facebook last week, just because I felt
Junior?
Nope, senior.
Oh, okay.
Just because I felt
I only follow mom.
Yeah, they just didn't have a voice in it. And of course, he was saying, Chris is a monster, and he was very disappointed that we're all talking about this, and it sucks because I feel like I don't want to pressure the family into talking, but if they were had to do an interview or talk to someone, I think obviously the eyes would have gone that way, but the eyes went the other way because the Daily Mail ran with a story about Chris Watts. So unfortunately, I can't change that. That's the way the country, and not even the country, the world operates. Whatever's interesting is what people are going to go dig into. So
I told people, when the Watts murders happened, and after he took the plea, like, you can make a lifetime of Watts obsessed. Da-da-da. For Kelly. I was trying to figure out how to work that in there. But you can make a lifetime of content about this. And there's so many unanswered questions that I have myself. I know I do. And I've been following it since day one. And I wish I could get the answers for, and I can't, because I'll never be able to trust Christopher Watts to give us the actual real answers. I know Shanann can't answer to us, and there are so many dynamics within the entire thing. And I think that's what caught the attention of the world, and why we don't hear more about like other cases is because they looked like, from the outside looking in, the stereotypical dream, the family that was working to lift themselves out of a situation where they were.
Yeah.
Because Shanann had such a public, image on Facebook, and She put out her videos constantly, not only about Thrive, but the family and how much they had. Hey, we just got to this point. You know, it just kept on going.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, it was where we had this insulated, view of the family from Shanann, and then we had Chris on the porch talking about, there maybe somebody came and took them away with the unborn child, and that caught so much attention everywhere. Oh my God,
Especially with
a
Lacey
pregnant
Peterson.
woman and two little girls, and immediately now you change the ethnicity to African American,
Yeah.
Latino, Asian, whatever you want to change it to, it would not have gotten anywhere near at that point. With Shanann on Facebook and traction that she had, and then got nowhere near, the traction it did with the evening news. If they were other than white, and
Yeah.
I hate that about the world, not just this case, because there are so many Native American families that have been affected just like this, or you can see the same play out, and with a name of that are Hispanic, and it doesn't get anywhere near the traction, because unless they're famous and they're connected to somebody else, why do they have to be connected to somebody else, or a celebrity comes out and connects to it and asks for help?
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Everybody wants the story about the poor white girl that's a victim, or now you add 3 little white girls in it.
Yeah.
And that's sad, because man, I have touched on a lot of stories of people, especially Native Americans, where it has happened, almost like Christopher Watts's entire story. The one comes out and talks about, no, somebody stole my entire family. And
Yeah.
James, nothing. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to, watch it. But you get a white man, 3 little white girls that are all gone. Now everybody wants to talk about it. We're looking at 8 years.
This is 8 years still talking about it, right? That's why I really love the Petito family, and I wanted to bring this up on the screen and just let you guys know about the really great work this family is doing. They even said themselves they hate
Brian Laundrie. Sorry.
Yeah.
I have to drop my F-bomb somewhere.
Hey, well, we all drop them sometimes, but the family hates that this is what the culture's like, and they want to do things to change that. So their organization is trying to raise awareness and help men, women get out of these domestic situations. Just like Gabby Petito was in a situation, she was ashamed, she was embarrassed about it, she didn't reach for help. They do a lot of great things. This family gets so involved, and a lot with like the indigenous women that have gone missing. They try to do something all the time to bring awareness to that as well. So I wanted to bring that up. They do take donations. That's where I typically do my donations to if I'm going to do them. So wanted to share that. I'll put that in the comments for you guys as well.
Just remember, for everyone out there, man or woman, if a man or your spouse, your lover, is willing to raise their hand in violence against you once, just once, they're going to do it again. and the next time it's going to be escalated. Even if you're in the honeymoon phase right now and he does it, or if it's at year 25, if they're willing to disrespect you as a human being and do that once, they're going to do it again. Guaranteed.
100.
Get the
Yeah.
F out. Nobody ever, I don't care if you have 9 kids with that son of a bitch, take your 9 kids, get in the goddamn, Dodge Caravan, if you can fit them all in one vehicle, you stack them on top of each other. I don't care. Just leave.
Yes, and there's resources on this site, so you can reach out, and they'll help you get out of those situations safely. I mean, don't go around being like, "I'm going to leave you" or any shit like that, right?
Just go. Just go.
Yeah.
And then that's what Gabby, her mom and her dad and everyone around her, because especially with the social media influence that they had, it was the van life. They were supposed to live up to this standard, what they were doing, and showing it off the world that they were a cute little couple, doing this thing. Before they ever bought the van, before any of that ever happened, Brian was abusing her.
Mentally first,
not only
then physically,
emotionally, and he was restricting her access to her friends and family.
Yeah.
He was
taking
setting
her
everything
ID.
up.
Yeah. He took her ID so she couldn't go out with her girlfriends.
Yep.
Those are just like small little red flags. He got jealous that she got a job and she started having friends. And that van life was the perfect opportunity for him to pull her away from having friends and having a job. So
it was a matter of time at that point. Let's take this road trip across America. Let's do this and just be me and you, isolated locations.
Yeah. Tragic story, both stories, obviously, and unfortunately both, like we were saying, white women on social media. And that's what this family is trying to do, is raise more awareness that this is happening to people all across the country, rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from. It can happen to you. It does not matter.
Or middle class, rich, it happens everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Nicole Brown Simpson. I was just watching something on OJ the other day.
Yeah. Or the Kennedys.
Yep. So if you guys want to donate, I just dropped that in comments. I'll also post it up later. Damn, Will, 3 hours.
Hey, before we leave, man, please, if you're not a subscriber to Deadline Crime, please subscribe. She works her tail off, doing this, and she's got tech support there that's helping her as much as possible right now. But she really, really needs the subscribers and and the people to watch the content. And if you're a subscriber of mine, thank you as well. I appreciate it from the bottom, of my heart. And to Gone Girl, thank you. And to anybody else who I did not put down a list of all the jewels that were, donated tonight, but we both definitely appreciate it so much.
And we're using it. Oh, damn, I don't have my engraved stuff. I meant to bring that. I also am going to start doing engraved items, guys. So I want to pay for our StreamYard account. So anytime you make donations, it's going to go towards paying for StreamYard. So we really appreciate that, because it is not free to dual stream and pull up these graphics and do all this fun stuff. So we really appreciate when you guys do that. It seriously, it means a lot to us.
But I really appreciate those who have been here. I really have tried to read as many of the comments I could tonight, without being a distraction. Like, hold on. I mean,
Yeah.
the power going out on me twice was enough.
And you made it back. You made it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Well, I'm still tethering because
Yeah.
our internet's still not up. It's got the one light just blinking. Bloop, bloop,
No
bloop,
kidding.
bloop. So, yeah, since I came back the second time, I was like, and then I saw the power outside. My light post came on. I'm like, "Ooh, the power's on!"
Power's back on.
Well, you can see me now. I'm not sitting in the dark.
Right. It was kind of a
Immediate.
cool, creepy vibe for a minute there, though. Will it kind of went with the vibe.
Yeah. What was the content? I was cold and creepy. Will in the dark.
If you guys have suggestions for other shows, this
please,
segment,
please.
yeah, we're really sick of fucking talking about, and I'm excuse my language, not very professional, but I'm so sick of talking about him. I'm so sick of the fact that people, I mean, like, I'm not mad about it. I don't care if there's only 3 of you, as long as we're like having a really good conversation. But I'm telling you, every time you talk about Chris Watts, it's like 30 people show up. But when you talk about any other case, no one gives a shit. And it starts to drive you a little mad.
It does. Oh,
but it is what it is.
I know it.
It is what it is. And I can't imagine, like, tech is definitely like a key player to get like the lights to look nice like this and all of this. So
what does Jennifer have coming up tomorrow?
I'm not doing a show tomorrow. I'm taking a break.
What?
Yeah, it's my
I'm not
anniversary
doing
weekend.
either.
It is my anniversary weekend, and
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, no, the 23rd.
It's Sunday.
Okay, so it's midnight. So yeah, it's Sunday. So we think we're going on a date tomorrow, but we'll see what happens because kids and
right.
Because last week I was in the ER randomly with puke.
Don't do that.
So we think we're going on a date.
AJ's heart.
So no show tomorrow, but do you have trivia on Sunday?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And 100% of the content is 420.
It is.
Yeah. Well, it's actually the 420th episode.
Nice.
So it's not on 420, the day or what everybody celebrates for 420, but it is the 420th, 420th episode. Yeah. 420 episodes of true crime trivia on Sundays. Yeah, try to figure out how many years that is. A lot more than 1 year.
I don't math. That's why I went into journalism stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do math. Will, I don't.
Right? Neither does my wife, but my wife has to take statistics.
I could go wake the kids up and ask them if they could do the math for me. But if you guys don't follow Will's channel, please go over there, subscribe. And on Sundays, one of my favorite parts of Will's trivia, they take a break and he showcases all of the missing people in the country.
Not this week, though.
Oh,
not
okay.
This week. Nope, not any. I work with 7 different nonprofit organizations between law enforcement and different organizations. Nobody wanted to sign on for a 420 trivia night. But we're still going to take the break, and at the midway point, we do 10 questions, and then I always feature 3, cases of cold cases of people missing in the United States, Canada, and Alaska. But
I have a great idea for you, Will.
Yeah, I was like, I showed them the logo and I told them what the theme of it was, and nobody wanted to do it. They're like, no, I don't want to sign on for that one. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm sure there's some 420 smokers out there who just they're gonna see that giant leaf on the logo, thumbnail for it. But this is a little bit different, of a weekend because I couldn't do it during the actual 420 because it didn't fall on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm doing the
you need to do the states that I'm looking up the legal states.
Right.
Like, you need to just do the states of where it's legal and only do the missing people in, what is it, Michigan, Nevada. Isn't it legal in California now?
Yes. And Washington State, where I live.
Washington.
Trust me.
And then everything else is
my daughter makes me take her to the dispensary twice a week.
I have my card, but I haven't gone.
Yeah.
It's far.
You gotta go to the dispensary, Jennifer, and get some of those edibles. You don't have to do the big giant mega stonerman stone since 1960.
No. Well, I tried that, and I'm going to explain myself for anyone who has issues with that. And I was in Michigan where it's legal, and I was taking it for my pain, for my MS pain.
Right.
And I tried a little bit of a gummy will, and I thought someone was going to break into the house.
Well, okay, all right. Well, then you're probably you're in that 1% that definitely shouldn't do it then.
So I will not be taking any gummies for my pain.
Well,
even though
my daughter
doctor
does their cookies.
That sounds even scarier for me.
That all depends upon the THC level, I guess, or something. I think it's called THC. That's in the cookie itself. They have different levels of how much is in each cookie, but she does them for her back pain. And her fiance about 5 years ago got T-boned in a car accident.
Oh,
and she's still functioning, she's still working, but she has issues at night when she lays down to go to sleep. It's like her back stiffs up and stuff like that. So she doesn't eat the whole cookie. She eats like a little bite of the cookie and says, all right, and it helps her. I mean, and I was such I hated weed. I hated it until my wife got breast cancer.
Yeah.
And then I could see just how much medical uses it could have. I mean, $1,000 a month for a pill, or $8 for some skunk weed.
Yeah, and the doctors really push it now too. Like, he pushed me to get my card. He's like, I want you to get it. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to use it. He's like, okay, but you need to get it. And not just the pain doctor, the neurologist too. They're like,
are you in a medical only state?
Yes. Yeah. But
we're medical and recreational here.
Yeah. So it's like, because it's funny, because when I went to Michigan, I thought I was all cool with my medical card, and they're like, yeah, we don't need to see that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Not cool anymore. But I always have my ice pack for my back. I'm telling you, I don't know if your daughter does ice, but I swear by it. I swear by it.
She's got one that it goes over the top, and it's got straps.
Is it blue?
And it goes this way as well.
Yeah.
It looks like kind of like some weird freaking back brace thing, but it's got little pockets where you can slide these little gel things in them.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. I love ice packs. I sleep with it. That's how much I love it.
Well, I'm sorry, AJ. Cuddling up to the Frosty the Snowman at night.
No, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for 6-7 years now, just sleeping with this ice pack. But what we were saying is, throw ideas our way for the next show. I've really wanted to do Dahmer, but I think it's Will's turn to pick one because I feel like I'm always like picking. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this.
If I have to pick the next one, it's going to be Dahmer.
Okay, well then let's do Dahmer next Friday.
Because I was a little kid. I lived down the street from him.
Yeah, and the whole thing's fascinating. Okay, Dahmer it is.
All right.
Okay, see y'all next Friday.
With that, we'll wrap up tonight's stream because, well, yeah, 3.5 hours of work.
Yeah, I think 3.5 hours is good.
I mean, that's pretty good for us.
Yeah,
we gab a lot, but so in ending, thank you everyone who showed up tonight. In case you watch this later on, thank you. And happy anniversary to Jennifer and AJ. Here's to many more years to come for both of you.
Cheers. All right, guys, we'll see you next Friday. Dahmer.
Bye.
Bye.